Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
I'm at a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you for the next 4 hours. We will talk some Chiefs football today as we are about 26 hours away from the final preseason game for the Chiefs. We are less than a week away from college football's Week 1 and the local teams getting underway with a Thursday, Friday, Saturday action with Mizzou, KU, K-State next Thursday. This time next week, will we be breaking down a local teams football game and previewing a couple of other local teams football games next Friday. And we will say, well, officially game week, because it would be 6 days away from the Chiefs starting their season. So it is right around the corner. We got a lot of stuff to talk about and still to break down as it relates to the Chiefs and what this roster may look like, what Tuesday may look like, what happens tomorrow, how much is there to gain from some of the players as it relates specifically to the Chiefs. Obviously, it's important for everybody out there playing because they are putting their ability on tape for other teams to see and maybe even finding a way to make this Chiefs roster. But there are so few spots. When you've got a roster the way the Chiefs do, there are so few spots up for grabs if there aren't devastating injuries or just a lot of injuries. If it's not like a Ravens typical preseason, then there aren't many spots for you to go and grab. There have been a few so far this year that we have seen, but for the most part, you're talking about a few spots in the entire 53-man roster. So obviously it's important for the players tomorrow that are out there playing, but the actual meaning overall for the Chiefs and what will happen over the next, 5 days until Tuesday when official cut, or 4 days until Tuesday when official cut down takes place on the 29th. So we will get into that and what we want to see tomorrow in the game. We'll also talk some around the NFL a little bit with the latest on Jonathan Taylor. It seems like it's coming to a head. I don't know when it's coming to a head with Chris Jones and the Chiefs. News out of San Francisco is that they are on alert for a conclusion to the Nick Bosa and 49ers holdout, that at least there's a feeling like that could happen anytime. And you wonder if it's Nick Bosa going, okay, now we're 2 weeks away. Let's get this done. Let's figure everything out, and I need to get into camp and ready to go. That's also somebody without 2 Super Bowl rings.
Yep.
And that doesn't have the $60 million in the bank that Chris Jones already has in the bank. So
not thinking about this being his last big contract.
Absolutely.
This is his first big contract.
He's not getting fined because he's on a rookie deal, whereas Chris Jones is not on a rookie deal, so he is being fined. So there are those distinctions between the two. But even if that was the case, it's almost like the flip would make it more likely that that person would go in. Or like, well, here's the thing. Nick Bosa is being fined and Chris Jones isn't. So Nick Bosa wants to avoid the fines and get in. Well, he's not being fined right now. And so, his fines can be waived, whatever it might be, as part of the negotiation, whereas Chris Jones cannot. So that's interesting just to think about if that gets done, what that contract looks like, because that's going to reset the market at the defensive end. Is Chris Jones trying to wait for that and say, well, actually, I'm a hybrid defensive tackle, defensive end. Aaron Donald only plays defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa just got $36 million a year and got $120 million guaranteed.
It's also 26.
Exactly. I'm just saying, I don't know. Just throwing different things out there.
He's 25. He's
25,
not
yeah.
yet turned 26.
Yeah. So if that comes down over the next couple of days, like if Nick Bosa's on the sideline at the 49ers final preseason game or something like that, there's going to be even more attention than put on the spotlight of the Chiefs and Jones, because that would be the last one. It'd be the Jonathan Taylor trade, Chris Jones and the Chiefs. It's pretty much it. All of these other things would have been decided at that point of some quarterback issues, San Francisco and their starting quarterback, Nick Bosa, they're in San Francisco as well. What's Russ look like in the first couple of games in the preseason with Sean Payton? Like some of these things. What's Anthony Richardson, although their third preseason game was last night, which, by the way, is how amazing highlights can make you look from time to time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't watch the game last night, and I saw the highlights after the game was over when I was starting to put some things together for the show today, and I'm watching, and I'm like seeing these throws that are like the throw on the crossing route that was right over the linebacker's head and right on the receiver. I'm like, wow, that is a dime, dude. And the runs and the picking up the first down by putting his foot in the ground and picking up 3 or 4 more yards, just splitting 2 defenders. Like, damn, Anthony Richardson looks good in his 6 of 17 for 78-yard game. Oh.
But the clips, though.
Oh.
That throw was on a rope.
Oh. Well. And I guess it shows, like, hey, this is what he's capable of.
Yeah.
This is how good he can be. He's one of the more raw, needs the time to develop. Would be great if he was in a system that had a veteran guy that he could sit behind and learn from for a year. And he is starting week number 1. So we'll see. That's, Look, learn how to swim, man.
People have been talking now this last week or two about Trey Lance going, well, it's not really the Niners' fault. He hasn't had any reps. Like, he barely played in college, and he's barely played in the pros. I think there's a school of thought that today, get Anthony Richardson some live reps. He's got somebody now that should be able to guide him in an offense like he was guiding Jalen Hurts a little bit. I think you'd see that work either way.
Yeah, we'll see.
Mahomes and Alex Smith worked a certain way, and so I think people may even overvalue that. If you're Anthony Richardson, hey, go make some mistakes. As Miss Frizzle said, make mistakes, get messy. Go ahead. This season doesn't matter. Be Anthony Richardson and then figure it out from there.
As Small's mom said in The Sandlot, go out, get in trouble. How many moms tell their kids to go get in trouble? Jim Irsay, Anthony Richardson, get out on the town, get in trouble. Come on, make some mistakes. Let's do some. Wait a minute. No, be in the game, make some mistakes. Sorry about that.
Don't follow Jim Irsay's specific instructions.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anthony. I just got confused there for a second.
Easy to mix that up.
On the field, if you need to go and make some mistakes. Jeez. Erase that if you can. Strike that from the record, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is a sustained.
Jim Irsay has tried to strike some things from the record, but screenshots live forever.
Not happening. Yes.
Look for the tweets that Jim Irsay tweeted with the word vitamins.
It happened once in 5th grade. People don't forget. All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810 to join the show, to be a part of it. We will talk with Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock, and we will talk about the backup quarterback. We'll hang out with Mick.
Get some lunch. Dylan, what do you want? If you stay here, I'll buy lunch.
You fly, I'll buy. I got it, man. I'll just, you know what? You need me to leave? I'm out.
This is not a you fly, I buy. This is you stay, I pay. I don't want to be here for that hour. I'll go across the street. I'll bring food back.
I fly, I buy.
I'll fly
as long as I get to leave while the backup quarterback conversation takes place. No, we won't spend the whole hour doing that. I've set aside only 23 minutes.
That's good.
Yeah.
The next week it'll be 21, and then
we'll slowly get to the point of
by week 8,
just not even discuss. When Chris Jones returns in week 8, we will not be talking about backup quarterback anymore.
That'll be the changing of the guard.
But no, Matt Derrick will be our guest. There's a lot of things to talk about with Matt Derrick. So we'll hang out with him. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer, hang out with him in the about 12:30 or so, heading up until 2 o'clock. We got the cuts before the show is over. I want to give a review on Swamp Kings on Netflix and a review on BS High.
You finished that already?
HBO, yes.
Oh,
I did.
man, I thought I was going to have the weekend.
Oh, it was... Preview the review.
Oh, I love that. Pre-review.
Pre-review. Yeah, I like it. HBO and those that made the documentary on BS High should give some pointers to Netflix and their Untold series on how to make a documentary that actually gets details and gets to the bottom of things and gets emotional, strikes right at the heart of it, holds people accountable live when the camera's rolling and bringing stuff up as in like, well, what about this? And the coach of BSI, like, who is one of the biggest that I've seen in like high school sports or whatever that I know of, you know, that we've heard talk and you hear some of these narcissist, sociopath, overall terrible person who tells everybody, yeah, I lie all the time. We'll tell you right to your face I lie. To the point that he will admit No, I lie all the time. But because I tell you I lie all the time, this time I'm telling you the truth.
Oh.
You gas-bagging, manipulating SOB. It was really, really interesting, informative, and disgusting, and entertaining, and heartbreaking all at once, encompassing. That's how you do a documentary about some things that were going on behind the scenes, not the pre-review, the Urban Meyer redemption story of Swamp Kings. So,
Which, hey, here's another little piece of that maybe people will eventually take. One of the reasons Last Dance swept the way that it did, what wasn't just the subject matter, it was access we never had before, stories we hadn't seen. You've talked about better tellings of the Aaron Hernandez story. Oh. There's a lot of reporting on that whole Florida team in general. You may have had to have been there for each of it from each individual player, but with Bishop Sycamore, I really think that we got like one article at the time, and everyone went, wow, this story's crazy. Then maybe a couple little spin-offs, but then it was quiet for a couple of years, presumably while this was getting made.
And you learn about the fallout and the devastation of the players.
Yeah.
The players.
They're telling a story that's actually untold to this point.
Yes, that became a huge joke because this team played on Friday and then played on Sunday on ESPN against IMG, one of the premier football programs in the country that recruits nationally and has a national schedule. They play that team 2 days after playing a football game.
I'm glad that one tells the story well.
When you're sharing equipment, when kids are walking off the field, taking their helmet off and giving it to somebody else, and IMG's been fully fitted with their helmets and their weight training program, it was fascinating. I would suggest people go and watch it if you want to see how a really good sports documentary is going to be made. And if you want to learn about how wonderful Urban Meyer is, you can watch Swamp Kings. All right, 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810. Let's hear from Bryant DeLong. He is the mayor of North Kansas City. He was on with the Border Patrol earlier today. And sort of interesting, this is not in this clip, but it was interesting him talking about that, he's not worried about little things that come up or people talking about these speed bumps or issues that will keep them from playing the political game. And he's like, it's why you haven't heard me do interviews. I'm not trying to be the best at giving interviews. The Royals are not deciding the location by who's giving the best interviews, Mayor Q or Mayor DeLong or Frank White or whoever else. It's like it's not what's going to be the decision and the deciding factor for the Royals. Okay, that's why I'm not. So I thought that was interesting. Just in I'm not out doing a media tour. Okay, I'm talking to you, Stephen, who I have a little bit of a relationship with. Both are lovers of north of the river and have that in common. So
I've often called Steven a lover north of the river.
He's a lover anywhere he goes. North, south, east, west, right in the middle. Here's Bryant DeLong, mayor of North Kansas City. Mayor DeLong with the Border Patrol, and he weighs in on what he feels the advantages are to the North Kansas City location.
I think they start to see the benefits of what they could really generate for themselves out of this district as well, and for the community. And, obviously we're centrally located. We have easy access from all directions of the metro, which is a big positive to everybody. And there still seems to be some confusion actually where North Kansas City is. And so for some reference here, we actually share a border with downtown Kansas City. And if you're looking for more of a landmark place, and obviously you got Chapels or Cinder Block or Chicken and Pickle if you're more familiar with those places, and where the site would be just down the road from that. But on top of that, as they continue to look in to this area, it is, this district really complements a lot of what we already have going on entertainment-wise. And I know they really want to kind of tap into that and build upon that character. And a few other things, you take a look at the tax rate. That's something that be viewed as a positive really for any business. There's no earnings tax, and our sales tax is about 2.25% lower than some of the other locations just south of us. And obviously small government. Small government's an easy thing. We've been an easy government to work with for business. We've been very pro-business. We're a very approachable government, and people have a strong appreciation for that. I think a lot of those reasons.
Those are all interesting points as to why North Kansas City would be a better fit for the Royals, why it may not just be a bargaining chip for the Royals if you're talking about the lower sales tax, if you talk about no e-tax for that county, that area. And as we've talked about, that, centrally located, people talk about going over the river and having to go north. If you live south of the river, having to go north, which is something those that live north of the river have always had to deal with, is, finding a way to end up south of the river. It's just simply life. Somehow, if the Royals are about, it's a huge inconvenience. Like, I am not going to drive an extra 30 seconds to cross the river. Like, I know I could get off on Broadway there on 35, but if I stayed on the highway and went above the river, like, who's got time for that?
That's a different ramp. I mean, how am I going to learn that?
Who's got the time to be a driver and a wedge away from downtown? I just can't do it. It just seems like it's way too inconvenient. And some of the things that would make it more palatable for those maybe south of the river could be, if the streetcar finds its way, which if they're talking about a streetcar to, the airport, well, then I'm guessing there would be a stop just across the river. I know that the Longs and the KC Current would like to have access to their stadium from the north side of the river.
Sure.
So park on the north side, take a ferry across the river to the Current game. They want to have access that way to where you don't have to cross the river to go and park. They want to do that. And if that's going to be happening for the Current, I'm pretty sure the Royals in North Kansas City can figure something out for Royals fans to park south and then go across the river, whether that be a walking bridge that might be built specifically. Like they had a bridge across the highway in the East Village location from east of the highway to being able to walk across it. You can do that. You can do a walking bridge across the river. We've talked about that. Pittsburgh has one of those. There are many ways that you can sort of make this an easier way for both north and south. And there is a larger area for quote unquote parking in North Kansas City. And what he's talking about complimenting, and I think that's an interesting point because I think if we look at the overall layout of the city and East Village versus North Kansas City, I've said I like the stadium of North Kansas City design, but the rendering, what it ends up looking like, could be completely different by then. And I'm like, I like the stadium, but put it in East Village because I do like downtown baseball. But part of downtown baseball is also sort of the view of seeing the buildings and everything and feeling like you're there. I think part of downtown baseball is also sort of the businessman special that you can just be, let's go walk over, let's go check out the game. Again, if you have access, the streetcar, whatever it might be, you could still do some of those things. But the overall view of the city, East Village is building in what is already a compact area. And North Kansas City, if they end up going there, it sort of means expanding the area that's trafficked around the city and in the central part of the area, that now you've created something on that side. Whereas you build in the East Village, you've already got that area sort of developed, but you're developing it with more commercial and things like that. But across the river is just going to be what it is, sort of dormant in terms of that land. From any traffic, any citizens or whatever, just any residents or tourists to be over there, where that does expand sort of the footprint of entertainment around the area.
And that's kind of the exciting part about the North Kansas City idea, is that there is enough room to expand into something larger. That if you want to talk about a ballpark district, the word that we've used so many times, and like you want to take that to the largest extent, well, that's what you would do. You say, we'll take this whole area. And again, like I mentioned this, I think, to Sterling, and he about fell under the desk. Sterling Holmes of ESPN Kansas City. Occasionally,
Sterling Mahomes? Yeah. Why are you talking this? You're having a conversation with Sterling Mahomes?
She's much smarter than Sterling Holmes.
That's a great point.
But I said, look, I mean, at that point, like you're talking about what feels. I mean, we may have talked about it on the show too, but you didn't want to retch as much as Sterling did. But like you're talking about like another Legends sort of setup, right? And I think the fear there is that's been a long time coming, a long time building, a long time growing. And it ends up in this awesome place where we can't. We talked about, you park in Nebraska Furniture Mart and walk over to the sporting game. But if you want to commit, if the Royals want to commit to even more private money to make this huge district there, like I think it'd be a blast. My kind of little like pet project, or the thing I'm always wondering about, is more public transit and making the city more walkable. These are things that, you know the most annoying person in high school who went over for like a summer, like a semester abroad.
That would be one of your siblings, right? Because you were homeschooled.
For me, anytime I left the house, I was, quote, traveling abroad. My parents had to give me a passport and everything and stamp it every time I left. I was very sheltered.
Did you have to get a hall pass to go to the bathroom?
I did. It really felt like a overexertion of their powers. But you have somebody, you have your friend in high school goes over for a summer abroad and comes back, and they're just, everything for the next year is about how different and great it is in Europe, and they're the most annoying person you know. Well, that's me now. It just didn't come until my late 20s. But now I like the idea of making it easier to hop onto the streetcar and go from point A to point B to anything you want in Kansas City, especially when the airport line ends up theoretically not. It's got to be a thing for the World Cup. But that expanding more, that part of Kansas City infrastructure continuing to grow and continuing to be a standout on an American level too. Like there really are elements that Kansas City is best of the best, and it really makes me happy, and I think that it's a great direction for the city to keep pushing in. As long as that surrounds these options, both of these sites are going to have logistical issues, and both of these sites would provide positive changes that I'd be excited about, making the city a little more connected. I like the idea of growing the footprint of the city with this expansive district while keeping it interconnected with the streetcar, with your various walking bridge options, all of the things you can do to make the city feel a little bigger and a little smaller in terms of how easy or difficult it is to get to the various corners of it. I still don't know if I think the Royals are serious about that being an option.
Yes.
That's the thing. I have no doubt about it. Does North Kansas City have a serious case to make? Could that be a great path? Sure. But I feel like it would take a lot more money both from the county, which is tough, and from the Royals, which doesn't seem to be their favorite thing at the moment.
The question would be, and this is where people look at, owners and people that have made millions and billions of dollars in their careers. They're typically making decisions that are financially sound for them or their business. And why have we talked about the East Village from the beginning? Is because of some of the members of the ownership and land and areas and real estate that's owned down there that would then become massive in terms of the investment if they were to build down there. Are they willing to walk away from that aspect to go and put what could be better for the city and better for the Royals organization, as opposed to what's better for them and their real estate investments that they may already have, and some of the work they've done in clearing out that space to put a stadium there, and then say, well, I guess we could put something else there. We've cleared it out because this would be better for the Royals organization to go to, in this hypothetical, to go to North Kansas City and expanding the footprint, like you talked about, the entertainment footprint, and maybe it becomes even more viable for the overall city that, we can't get anything by state almost, ever. It's difficult to do. I don't even know the last by state thing that we had that was agreed upon. Somebody probably texted and be like, oh, it was last week. Cool.
I'm sure there was something.
Yeah, but if the Royals end up in Clay, you'd have Sporting in the dot, you'd have the Royals in Clay, and you'd have the Chiefs in Jackson. It would be as close to, without Johnson. I mean, how about you do something, Johnson?
Hey, Johnson County.
Okay,
pick it up.
Seriously, just enjoying everybody else paying. Shocker. It's. I mean, geez. Chiefs can move to Johnson. Put them right here. That's fine.
Yeah. Hey, let's tell you what. Make it easy for Lebo's commute.
I'll tell you what. Arrowhead, if you want to build a huge district, I don't know, right around 135th and Quivira, I'm perfectly fine with having my house right around there. And you want to give me double just to go ahead and clear that out?
Yeah.
I'm willing to move right now. What you need?
That's a good point.
Am I willing to sell? Nope, I don't want to sell. What about this? Honey, pack our bags.
350%? Yeah, all right, you got me.
And gone, the Andersons. If you've got the three of the, essentially, I guess, four, there's a lot of counties, but around this area, right, that would be hosting a professional team in town.
Yeah.
It would be as close to a bi-state sort of everybody sort of chipping in that you can get. And maybe it makes it more palatable for I wonder if the Chiefs would prefer North Kansas City for the Royals.
I wondered about that, and Mark Donovan did not give us an inkling to Lebo yesterday.
Which was a
really
great question by Lebo.
Great question.
God, he's been on fire.
He has. I think Lebo. I've been meaning to tell him this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it on air now.
Don't tell him. Just tell us.
I think Lebo he'll never admit it. I think Lebo's secretly enjoying all this stadium stuff because he's out here with his metaphorical Big J journalism hat on, asking the hard-hitting questions. But he's Todd Lebo. He's likable. There's a velvet glove on that hand, but he is going to bring the hammer of journalistic integrity every time.
See what happens, Todd, when you drop the shock jock? When you just become a journalist? When you become somebody that is presenting and being this, this conduit for the fans.
That's exactly right.
I mean, when you stop trying to shock everybody with your jock.
That is one of his worst traits. His intention.
Here's Lebo trying to shock everybody with his jock.
Shocking with his jock.
It's ridiculous. Oh, that's not what Andy meant?
I'm still not clear on that, actually.
Well, then why is Lebo doing that?
That just felt like a hobby of his. I think he's been doing that since the early 80s.
Yeah, that's probably right. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. A few other things I want to get into that we can talk about with this, and then also get into some Chiefs and some other things around the NFL. Matt Derrick joins us at 11 o'clock. We will hang out with Mick Schaefer. We got the cuts before the show is over. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Let's hear from Brooke Sherman. Every time we say, do we have to say every time that he's not related to John Sherman?
Yes.
Is it
because I forgot about it literally during the presser, and they do it all the time. I knew this, but I was cutting the audio, and at one point he said something that had sort of like the little
dad.
He's a dad. He said something with a little bit of like kind of a lisp at the end of an S sound. Like, oh, that sounds like John Sherman talking. So I was like trying to figure out who was who, in the audio clips. Wait a second. They're not related.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No, and I get it from the Glass family that with the Royals, you hear John Sherman, and now going to talk is somebody else working in the higher up is Brooke Sherman.
Like, all right. Okay. That's fine. I mean, that happens sometimes. I guess. I don't know.
Starting pitcher is Ross Piccolo. That's interesting.
No relation.
At first base is Jeff Quattrero.
What
is going on here?
I did think it was cool that you and your brother did this show for so long. So I just, I always see those familial connections.
Well done.
Thank you.
Here's Brooke Sherman, no relation, on how the two governments would impact their choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the equation is to ensure that we're negotiating properly and we're having the proper back and forth with each set of governing bodies, the elected leaders, and we're doing that in both Clay County and the city of North Kansas City, and Jackson County and the city of Kansas City. So those are ongoing, and we're working hard at both places to understand what can be done in both, and that's just part of the process.
Confident with both of them?
Yes.
I do still wonder, how much they have a preference for one or the other. I do believe they have a preference for East Village, but I wonder if the final decision does come down to the ease of which to get the public financing.
I think that would make the most sense. It's just the crazy thing about it to me is that, hey, here are these two pitches. Here are these two renderings. How are the two governments going to impact it? Well, we're still working hard to understand where everybody's coming from, what everybody wants, what everybody needs. You want to have this decision made in a month.
Yeah.
You're still... look, work hard to communicate, work hard to stay in the loop with everybody, but that is the thing that is still incongruous to me, which is, well, are these full plans with economic impact reports? Do you have plans and details, or are you still working hard to understand? And look, there's wiggle room. It's not that absolute, right? You could say we've got 90% of this stuff figured out. We just need to massage the last couple details, and it's a negotiation. I'm not ignorant to there being, some a little tug of war between each side, but it still feels disjointed still in the messaging and in the order of operations, and I don't know why it's unfolded that way for the Royals.
Yeah, I just from Clay County standpoint, and the poll that was out, about 70% that would not vote for a 1-cent tax increase if to build the Royal Stadium and entertainment district and things like that. We'll see when, if it gets on the ballot ever, if they decide Clay County, and if it gets on the ballot to see would the 1-cent tax increase be something that, hey, for every $100 you spend, it's going to be an extra $1 that's going to go to build this stadium and to build out the infrastructure of, the Royals, this ballpark district, all of that. So, it's, how much are you willing to invest in the area that could ultimately help invest in you without knowing what the immediate impact would be, without knowing what the impact tomorrow, like, oh, well, 30, 40 years down the road, this is the decision we're making and I'm being taxed more right now. I get and totally understand that. I've talked about, I don't know how many times, the benefit of sports in a town, professional teams in a town, and while there have been lots of economic studies about what a publicly financed stadium does or doesn't do, and do you ever reap the benefits, the rewards of having that in your town, you could read study after study after study after study after study that does that. And I think it's easy to be able to say, this was built, this is the income, therefore 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 like you said it would. this is not presenting the economic impact that you are talking about. But one thing that I have mentioned and seeing it firsthand is being able to retain talent. And it was either Brooke Sherman or it was
One of them
Earl
mentioned it,
Santee
yeah.
that mentioned the talent. And people think of sports teams and stadiums. When you say talent, you think of the players on the field. But it is ultimately the people in the city and the businesses in the city in keeping talent with people that want to stay. Nashville is now the largest city in Tennessee. It is past Memphis. It's been chasing Memphis since forever. Since ever. Memphis has been the largest city in Tennessee. It is now Nashville. Now you could say, well, is it because of sports teams? Is it because of the Titans and the Predators? And those are just a couple of things. Or it's always been the country music capital of the world. Okay, well, it's always been that. So why in the last 10 years and 20 years has the population grown from 2000 to 2020 by 45%? Why has that happened? Is it because they are the country music capital of the country? They've always been that. The Grand Ole Opry's been there since 1920. What are the reasons? Well, one of the reasons is getting the Titans. Another reason would be getting the Predators. Another reason would be, and this is where it's the government investing in their own area and thinking of long term, it is taking tax money from the citizens, and they built a huge convention center right after the Great Recession. They built a huge convention center because they wanted to start attracting more tourists. They wanted to start attracting more businesses to have retreats or whatever it is at these convention centers that you would go to. They wanted more people to come to the town. So they built the convention center. And all of a sudden, they're getting more businesses. Their sports teams are there. They've invested in their overall city. The population has grown 45%. And here's where the impact comes with the people of the city and the citizens. So Bridgestone was going to move. Bridgestone is now keeping their North American headquarters in Nashville. They've built a $200 million skyscraper that adds to the skyline and that they paid for, but they wanted to stay. Alliance Bernstein moved their Manhattan headquarters to Nashville. 2,000 jobs. By the way, Bridgestone, 2,000 jobs. Amazon named Nashville the East Coast logistics and retail hub. There were 50 cities trying to land that. Nashville did. I wonder why. 5,000 new jobs with an average income of $150,000 salary. 5,000 new jobs averaging $150,000 to Nashville. There's now a nonstop flight to London out of Nashville. You can get that in Denver or Houston or Dallas or Atlanta. And now Nashville has a nonstop flight to London. The average household income since 2010 has gone from $43,000 in Nashville to $84,000 since 2010 because of the Bridgestone, the Alliance Bernstein, the Amazon, the companies that now are looking at Nashville that might be in England that can have something in Nashville because there's now a nonstop flight there. Sports in a convention center and keeping talent. Now you tell me what the $1 billion to build the Titans a new stadium, what that brings to the city and say, well, yeah, but this impact there. Okay, but 20 years later, now look what the city did. They've doubled their average household income.
They are going to have to build another stadium now.
They are. They're building another stadium.
That does follow it immediately.
To keep the Titans, and it does follow that. But then you could say, okay, well, have the benefits already outweighed what it was that the citizens had to pay in taxes? Plus, when you're talking about the tourism dollars, that's ultimately paying for that. That's not what the Royals can do in Kansas City because we don't have the tourist attraction that, the country music capital of the world. But they've been that forever. And now all of a sudden, since 2000, there's something vastly different. Well, they've got 2 professional franchises and a world-class convention center. And now they've got all these businesses that are looking at Nashville.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think one thing before even all of that I do think is a part of what gets lost in translation from here's the plan, why do these places never pay off the economic impact? One of the things I think is the vagaries that come with it, which is, hey, here are some big numbers. Here's what it'll look like. Here's all of that.
That's exactly right.
So you sell a bill of goods that you are not going to be able to pay off in terms of what the impact actually is. And so be honest with the numbers, but then people are going to want to pay less because those numbers are going to be lessened. Inflating those numbers makes it easier to try to convince people to go your way.
You're absolutely right.
That part is part of it in terms of the communication, all of that. One of the elements of kind of the pro-tax conversation that we have that I think is interesting is feeling out where the noise comes from. Because Nashville has the Titans and they have the Predators, but they don't have a Major League Baseball team. And what is the multiplying factor for Kansas City? The Chiefs are here. We got the soccer capital of America. How much does baseball...
Take that, St. Louis.
Eat it, St. Louis. How much does baseball change that in terms of Kansas City's immediate future? Why does Memphis fall behind Nashville? They still have an NBA team. What did Kansas City gain by building Sprint T-Mobile Center without having a team there? What is it that promotes growth in these different places? Nashville's snowballing, and it's a great city to look to in terms of where the growth could take Kansas City as well. None of this to me is also an argument against either of these stadium plans. It's just all very there's a lot of noise in that when you can have these cities. Why didn't Green Bay ever take another huge leap? You know, and maybe just having Milwaukee take the rest of the stadiums or the rest of the pro teams there was too much. Even though you have a super long time relevant, the entire history of the sport, the Green Bay Packers have been relevant. Maybe it's about big steps in the modern era. Maybe it's, hey, moves you make after the turn of the millennium is when it starts. And I don't know the answers to all of those things. But that is one part that has stuck with me in the stadium conversations where the end result is never paying off. Really, again, like you said, go find any economic study of any pro stadium that's been built, and it doesn't end up meeting the cost in terms of the financial return for the city. I do think that is in part because you can hide behind the fuzz of details and then go, oh, well, we got the stadium now, and it's still really good for the city and all these other places.
Yeah.
Figuring out what directly correlates is very difficult, and I'm not an economist.
It's an absolutely great point because you can throw billions and numbers out there and say this is the economic impact. How are you proving that? Well, I'm telling you, this study, you just have to trust us. Right. And then if you build the stadium and that doesn't happen, you're like, well, yeah, but it's fallen short because of this, and this. But too bad, the stadium's already being built anyway. The tax has already been passed, so nothing you can do. So, whoops. I guess we inflated. You know what? We were really positive that was going to happen, but it has fallen short. But look at all the benefits that are happening. You're absolutely right.
Everyone loves having pro teams in their city. Yeah. Everybody. People who don't care about sports are like, oh, it's kind of nice we have the Chiefs and the Royals and stuff. It's good.
And Nashville 2 years ago got the MLS team.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I mean, I would say without the Titans, without the Predators, without the convention center, without some of the things that have happened, does the MLS, do they choose Nashville?
They did not get World Cup games in Nashville, did they?
No, they did not.
Were they one of the ones that withdrew late?
I don't know.
A couple cities kind of drew their names out toward the end. I can't remember who it was.
I don't know if they were or not. I for whatever reason, I remember them being in it till the end and thinking that they were going to get, or at least a chance of getting a World Cup. But yeah, there were a number of cities that wanted the MLS team that went to Nashville, just like there were 50 cities that wanted the Amazon East Coast hub. By the way, East Coast, Nashville. That ain't the East Coast.
College realignment has ruined everything.
but that's what Amazon said. We can go to all these different places.
Yeah,
we're gonna go
get there from here,
Nashville, and create 5,000 jobs there. Yeah, but the Predators didn't do that. The Titans didn't do that. True, I guess. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com. In the 810...
yesterday. Was that the lunch? Yeah, yesterday. Said yesterday he expects this to be the largest attended preseason game in Chiefs history. Interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Not sure, but that's what they're expecting. They would know the numbers, you know, of
they're going to hang a
ticket
preseason
sales.
banner maybe.
Let's hope they do.
A little
man.
banner preview.
A lot of teams. You know, if the Browns were to win this game, they could hang a banner about how they've beaten the Chiefs. Other teams do it. It'd be great. We'll talk with Matt Derrick about how many banners he has in his house.
Hey, don't be a Bush this week.
It's all gonna be Gabby Gabberts, just gabbing away.
Last week turned into the Blaine game. The Kansas City Chiefs return to Arrowhead Stadium on Saturday for one more chance.
fun come together at Family Leisure, K10 and Ridgeview in Olathe.
913-888-7727. Awesome!
The Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All I'm saying is that I don't think that it's going to matter if he ever gets in the game or not. That's all I'm saying, Matt.
Why can't we friends? Why can't we talk about something else this week?
You know, I thought we were going to have a nice, cordial conversation today.
We are.
And be friends. I was trying to make a gesture here.
Yeah.
And then what do? I hear you talking about the country music capital of the world and just dumping on Branson, Missouri, the official tourism partner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow, you know that's wow. I didn't even think about that. Wow. Have they surpassed Nashville now?
I mean, who's Nashville?
I mean,
did Nashville have the late great Shoji Tabuchi? Did Nashville have the Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters?
No.
Does Nashville have the Dolly Parton Stampede? Actually, they might have one too. Who knows?
They may. I don't know.
They have
Nashville doesn't have Dolly World either.
Did they have Andy Williams? Did they have Tony Orlando and Dawn?
Wow, Tony and Dawn. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they did.
No. Where do you think Boxcar Willie went? Did he go to Nashville? No.
Where did he go?
He went to Branson.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that one coming. What are the odds of that? Yeah, you know what? I completely take it back.
If you want true, American Russian comedy, are you going to Nashville or are you going to go Branson and find Yakov Smirnoff?
Yeah, I've never gone to Nashville for my true American Russian comedy.
I've never gone to Branson to Yakov. Ever.
And I tell you what, I mean, if Shane Bichelle is ever going to go anywhere for country music, that man is going to Branson, Missouri.
Well, I mean, he's got a he can go to Branson all he wants because he ain't ever going to play in a game for the Chiefs, so it doesn't matter. I'm just joking.
Because he's going to be the starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders. That's my take.
I mean,
that's a hot take right there.
It feels. Are we? Hold on. Be honest.
If Sam Howell can't handle a blitz, or the truth, then yeah, he may be in Washington.
Perfect Shane Bichelle will go.
I have planted my flag here, Matt, and if you can just validate this for me or tell me I'm an idiot, either way is fine. I believe the Chiefs are fully activating Kevin Kolb protocol for Shane Bichelle. That's where I think we're at right now. I think the secret Kevin Kolb protocol has been initiated, and he's about to turn into a 4th-round pick right in front of our eyes.
It's possible. You never know.
I can live with that.
You never know. There are enough, different Andy Reid clones around the league right now that Chiefs players should be popular in several different teams.
Blaine Gabbert maybe also a 4th-round pick, and then we take Jason's logical conclusion, which is you carry one quarterback and Jerick McKinnon.
Did not say that.
And but I'm taking it to its furthest extent here.
I see.
Matt's carrying 4 quarterbacks because you got to get the scout team sharp. You're only carrying 1
because it doesn't matter if it's anybody but Mahomes.
But
Mahomes, to the truest extent.
Yeah. So get as many draft picks as you can.
And then they don't actually keep 53 players.
Right.
They just keep the number of players that they're going to activate on game day because that's all that matters are the players that'll be active on game day.
That's exactly
the final roster.
That's exactly right.
We can extreme the hell out of this. Is fun.
And
I like extremes.
I'm starting Jody Fortson at every spot.
Extreme heat.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Extreme hot takes.
We
that's what we're doing here. Absolutely. Matt, I
am calm, cool, and collected today.
You're a cucumber, man.
I am.
I love it. We're all good.
I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna watch you two fight.
No, we are not.
We had an hour to fight about stadium stuff, and we still didn't come to blows. We just had a nice constructive convo.
I liked the day better when Matt and I double teamed Josh.
Have we ever double teamed Josh?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that.
That was the Chargers when Andy Reid kicked the field goal instead of going for it on 4th down, and then they beat the Chargers.
That sounds vaguely familiar. That sounds like something I might do.
And then Josh turned into the turkey.
I gobbled.
Remember that T-Trade? Because he was on location.
Riverboat Josh wanting to go for it all the time.
I wish I could forget about the time you guys double teamed me.
I'll never forget about that. It's one of my greatest memories. Matt and I, teammates, teamwork made the dream work, and sharing is caring.
And it was a nightmare. And I was alone.
Chiefs Digest is where you can go and find Matt Derrick's latest rosterology and the final preseason clash with Cleveland and settle some of the unresolved questions. Let's start there. What can tomorrow do for the Chiefs in clearing up some of the what could be foggy areas of the roster right now?
Yeah, I mean, I went through and counted last night, and I think that there are still probably as many as 14 players that I think could still legitimately make a case for this roster one way or the other.
Interesting.
You know, and
I haven't looked at it, but if you said, hey, before you go and look and break it down and study it, how many players like legitimately have a chance to sort of make the roster? I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 maybe, but 14 is an interesting number. That it's more than I would have guessed.
I mean, to me, it's a lot. There's a lot of decisions, and now a lot of them are in some certain spots, and some of them are duplicates in a way. I mean, and some of them might not even make the team at all. I mean, like for instance, at running back. Mm-hmm. I've got the Chiefs right now keeping 3 running backs. I could be convinced that they might keep a 4th, depending on what happens in this preseason game and what comes out of it. But hey, if LaMichael P. Ryan made the team, it wouldn't surprise me. If Deneric Prince made the team, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think those both. I mean, if Jerry and Ely went out and went 4 carries for 85 yards, I mean, they might say, hey, wait a minute, we can squeeze this guy on there. Defensive line is where it's really interesting because, I mean, that is literally where Chiefs are probably going to keep 9 or 10 players, and I can legitimately make a case for 14 of them. Because, I mean, and that's with the issues of Charles Omenihu being in there and Chris Jones, and you've got Turk Wharton's injury. And you've got everybody's had a chance to be in that defensive tackle spot. So is Daniel Wise going to be the guy? Well, if we just trust our eyes right now, you'd say Chris Williams is in charge. But then Danny Shelton's also in the mix.
I mean, Daniel Wise has been getting...
Phil Hoskins and Matt Dickerson have both had their chances. So
I mean, Wise has been getting first-team reps and starting the game, and he made a couple of, nice plays defensively and stuffing a run and, creating the havoc that then somebody else came and cleaned up, like sort of doing his job. He didn't get the tackle, but he did his job, and he filled the gap and pushed his lineman back into the running back, and I think it was Noddy or Willie Gay came over and made the tackle. It's like, well, Wise doesn't get any credit for that, but he does in the eyes of football coaches and people that know football. That's really interesting because, I could see 5 or 6 guys that are in the mix for the last 1 or 2 spots on that defensive line. But also I wonder how much Tuesday impacts what they even know about Chris Jones.
Right.
Like how much if there's still no communication on Tuesday, how are they making a decision on some of those positions there at the bottom part of that defensive line, not knowing if their 3-technique defensive tackle is going to be their game 1 or how long he's going to be out for this team?
Well, and when I asked Steve Spagnuolo about that specifically earlier this week, I mean, he gave what I thought was a pretty enlightening answer, which is that went back to the whole sometimes you're 4 weeks into the season before you really know what you got there. And he's saying right now on the defensive line, they really don't know what they have there, especially at that defensive tackle spot.
I mean, do they keep 3? Turk Wharton, I'm guessing, is going to be on the team or is, he's healthy now and he may play tomorrow. So it doesn't look like IR is going to be,
right.
you put him on the IR.
Unless there's another setback. He had some knee inflammation that set him back there.
But as it sits right now, it would be Turk Wharton. But are they, at that point, if they're keeping defensive tackles, are they going to go Noddy, Shelton, Coburn, and then 3 of their 4 defensive tackles that'll be playing against the Lions would be run stuffers, and you'd have 1 3-technique who's coming off an ACL. That's if Chris Jones doesn't play. Is what I'm saying. If Chris Jones can't play, that to me is a huge question. If Chris Jones is there, well then now you got to make a tougher decision as to who the other couple of guys are that are going to be. Is it Noddy? Is it Coburn? Is it Shelton and Coburn? And they make a decision on Derek Noddy, like those things. But without Chris Jones, like I really wonder what they're going to do to try to fill that spot, or they just simply say we're going to bring the best defensive tackles we have, and if they aren't necessarily pass rushers in 3-technique, we'll figure that out even without Omenihu and Chris Jones and find a way to put pressure on the quarterback, maybe have to create pressure on our own scheme versus talent.
Yeah, and that's one of the other takeaways I took from the preseason, which was that the Chiefs blitzed a lot during the preseason. Now, they were some very specific packages. You could tell they were trying to test some guys and because a lot of the guys we were talking about blitzing were Chamari Connor and Drew Tranquil. I mean, these were guys who are new to the team. They're putting them in their roles. It wasn't like they were consistently blitzing, Nick Bolton or anything. But they were trying some different looks. They were trying with some different guys to see what skills they had. And Chamari Connor basically has just passed every test he's been given.
He's looked good.
I mean, he's looked
what
good.
I've seen.
Yeah, that's a spot. But then again, I mean, we bring the blitz question in. Well, one of your best blitzers is L'Jarius Sneed. That dude hasn't practiced in almost a month. So how do you figure out the cornerback spot? Because that one is also very, very complicated.
Every defensive line is sort of multidimensional. And they like when you hire a defensive line coach or a defensive coordinator, it's going to be like, are you guys going to be 4-3? You're going to be 3-4? It's like, well, we're going to be multi-front. I mean, we're gonna have this. We're going to do this sometimes. We'll do that sometimes. We'll just do all of these different things. We're going to incorporate really everything. Well, what's the base? Well, the base is just going to be sort of positionless and all of that stuff, right? It's sort of the new age way of describing defense. Is not just your set. Well, we're a 4-3 defense. Okay, we're a 3-4 defense. Well, we're a 4-3 defense, but we've just brought linebackers and pass rushers out here on third down. So now we're like a 3-5, defense. Well, I thought you were a 4-3. Well, yeah, but not every single play. And I do wonder, like, all the blitzes that Spagnuolo is doing, and if Chris Jones isn't around, Chanel and Gay are getting more on-ball work. And Chanel talked about that it's been interesting because he's been that off-ball linebacker and now doing some of those things on ball. Gay as well. Like, is Steve Spagnuolo gearing up for, we ain't going to have a Minahu for 6 weeks. Chris Jones, we'll see if we have him. FAU's a little behind right now. So I've got to bring guys on the field that I think can get after the quarterback. And if that's Chanel blitzing as an on-ball linebacker, and if we have to go more 3-4, and maybe 3-5 at times with linebackers and hybrid safeties that are going to be blitzing, well, then that's what we're going to do instead of we got Dunlap and Jones, and we've got Karlaftis, and, we've got, who am I missing that was on that defensive line that they would be against the Bengals in obvious passing situations. So Dunlap, Karlaftis, Jones, and Dana.
Dana in the inside.
And Dana or Frank Clark.
You would have liked to still have Frank Clark, probably.
Sorry, Frank Clark. I'm just thinking of that Bengals game last year. Instead of having those four guys where we can say, yeah, we're going to do some different things with talent and we're going to win there. I mean, now all of a sudden, is he saying, we got linebackers, we got safeties, we're going to be blitzing. That's how we're going to put pressure on the quarterback. We're going to be maybe closer to looking like a 3-4 on passing situations than we would a 4-3 and different guys blitzing from different spots.
And one thing that I always try to remind myself when doing roster projections and making sure that I try to exclude a little bit of my own biases is that I try to remind myself, trust your eyes. And that's what I tell people when you're watching preseason games and you're watching training camp. Trust your eyes because the answers are there. I mean, it's just up to us to see them because the Chiefs aren't – and Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid and Matt Nagy are not playing 4D chess here. They are giving snaps to the guys who are going to play and what they're going to do. And one of the things you trust your eyes with what Joe Cullen has been doing with that defensive line is that I think he is consistently just going to put his 4 best pass rushers on the field as much as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, in run situations, anything that's a multiple, option search situation, you'll probably see a lot of Derek Nottie and Turk Wharton and maybe a Danny Shelton, those guys. But is it just going to be on third down when you're seeing George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Malik Herring, and FAU on the field and down the road, Charles Omenihu? It won't be just third down. I mean, I think you're going to see those guys a lot, and that's why you've heard them talking a lot about it, like a guy like Malik Herring, because and Charles Omenihu fits in that category too. Guys that they're comfortable moving around and kicking inside. So that typically for the Chiefs in the past has been a third down package. I think you're going to see it a lot more this year on other situations rather than just third down.
So doesn't that create – so Dan Orlovsky said yesterday, we played the clip, that the Chiefs are going to have trouble, making the playoffs without Chris Jones if he doesn't show up until week 8, which I took the perspective of, okay, if the Sunday before the game against the Lions, an injury report came out and said Chris Jones, tore part of his meniscus, is going to miss 7 weeks. Would we say, well, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs? He would say, well, they got the offense. They'll be able to overcome that. You got Patrick Mahomes. They're still really good. You've got Spagnuolo. They'll find ways to get through it. All of a sudden, it's a holdout. It's like, boy, I don't know, man. If they don't have this guy, good luck. But he also said, Well, without Chris Jones, teams are just going to run it down their throat. Lions are going to run the football, and the Jags are going to run the football, and the Bears are going to run the football. And without Chris Jones there, they're just going to run it. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Chris Jones isn't there to be a run stuffer. He's gotten better at that, but he's a guy that, is so dynamic in getting after the quarterback. If it is the Chiefs saying, we're putting our best 4 defensive linemen out here, and if that's Turk Wharton and FAU on the field at the same time, I mean, does that then create a team going, well, now we're going to run at this defensive line because FAU's not stopping the run right now because he's behind the 8 ball, and Turk Wharton ain't stopping the run. He's still coming back from an ACL. Karlaftis is fine at setting the edge, but, and Derek Nottie is, not the guy that he was a few years ago. I do wonder if that does become part of, well, without Chris Jones there, and if they got these guys that we think are inferior, then, yeah, that's going to be our game plan, is to run the football, even secondary to let's keep Patrick Mahomes off the field and run the football and keep the ball in time of possession.
And that could work. I mean, if it could work as long as, your second and third level lets you down. I mean, yeah, if they're pretty easily. The difference between 3.5 and 5 yards of carry is whether or not Nick Bolton and Willie Gay and Leo Chenal are making plays, and whether the safeties are coming up and making plays. Yeah. And that's where the Chiefs should be better. I mean, they should be able that if they have a weakness up front, they should be able to compensate for it for a degree in the back end. But, at the same time, it's the NFL in 2023. If teams want to run the football against me, let them. I mean, I'll borrow a page from Josh's book here. You want to run for 180 yards? Great. I mean, what's that going to do?
To a degree,
against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, to a degree, and that's the big part is Patrick Mahomes on the other side. Just because I say to a degree because Brandon Staley's sort of defensive approach was, we're building our team to stop the pass. That includes our defensive line. So if you're going to run the football on us, that's great. But then when teams are picking up 10, 11, 12 yards running the football on you, well, it's just like they're passing on you, all right? Because they're not picking up 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards. I mean, they're picking up chunks because your run defense is that awful. Because your strategy was to build your defense to stop the pass and stop the pass and stop the pass. But you got to have some sort of defense against the run. And I think the Chargers have changed a little bit in their philosophy and needing some guys to help stop the run rather than the first year Staley was there. That was the extreme of, you don't need to pass against the Chargers. You can just simply run it down their throats. And was sort of the frustration that it was like, why aren't the Chiefs just simply running it? Because they're picking up 8 yards a pop instead of trying to pass against a defense that's built to stop the pass. So I do think there are levels to that where it's like, okay, you want to run against the Chiefs? That's fine because Patrick Mahomes is going to go and score. As long as you're not giving up 12, 13, 14 plays.
Yeah, you can give 160. You just don't want to give up 240.
Exactly. That's right. He picked up 300 yards rushing on you. Yeah, but Mahomes only had like 150 yards passing. I mean, there you go. Are you kidding me? Look what we did against Mahomes. He threw it 5 times for 150. What are you talking about? He averaged 30 yards per attempt. Yeah, but it was only 150. Okay, they put 300 on the ground.
There were 5 teams last year who averaged, whose defense allowed an average of 5 yards per carry or more. 5-1 here. Packers, Texans, Lions, Giants, and Chargers at a full 5.4 yards per rush attempt.
And that's better, I think, than Brandon Staley's first year.
That will not play.
Yeah, I actually think that's improved.
I mean, that's like you have ensured that every running back against you was Jamal Charles.
Yes, exactly. Don't turn every running back into Jamal Charles.
And there are not 32 Jamal Charles in the NFL right now.
I wish there was just one more on the Chiefs.
This is kind of interesting. I mean, just by like the laws of how you expect bell curves to look, I would have expected the NFL average to be lower. There are a whole bunch of teams, Chiefs included, but the Commanders at 16, Chiefs at 17, and Falcons at 18 all averaged 4.4 yards per carry allowed. You go, well, you just hand it off 3 times, and you're getting 12, 13 yards every 3 downs. The aggregate stats are always going to be very unwieldy when you try to apply them practically that way, I guess. But that's kind of interesting.
Well, as Casey Printers once said, if you average 3 yards a play, it puts the offense in a positive position.
3rd and 1.
And
3 yards per carry, you get 3rd and 1.
The Titans.
I think you need to do the Common Core math on that, buddy. Show your work.
The Titans and Niners were the 2 best in the league on just average yards per attempt allowed with 3.4. 3.4 yards per carry is getting you a first down, and you're moving the chains every 3 plays.
Oof, by a couple of inches.
By inches.
But a couple inches make a difference. And so, but that strategy part of it, though, I think has always been fascinating with Brandon Staley. Of the we're not caring about stopping the run. Okay, we're dead last in stopping the run. Okay, great. We didn't give up the huge lead in the second half against the Jags because we couldn't stop the run. Okay, that's what we were a play here or there from playing in the divisional round of the playoffs by being the worst team in the league at stopping the run. This is a passing league, so let's focus on stopping the pass and let's build for that. Building right, because the J.C. Jackson contract was awful.
And
so it's not just stopping the pass; it's being smart about it too.
And my hot take, I couldn't get past the hot take headline to actually read it because, and I won't throw anybody under the bus, although I should, because oh my gosh, how can you write a fluff piece about the Chargers offense and Brandon Staley right now?
Oh, what was the headline?
It was something about Brandon Staley is convinced that the Chargers are reinventing offense, and I mean
reinventing offense overall. And
I mean, the only thing that Brandon Staley at this point has done has been able to take a roster and revolutionize the way in which you go 500 every year.
When did Kellen Moore become the greatest offensive coordinator in the history of the land?
He had about a 2-year stretch where that was sort of like common knowledge.
Yeah.
And then the Cowboys took a step back.
Look what Kellen Moore is doing for the Cowboys.
Dak Prescott.
Look what he did with Dak Prescott and running. And Mike McCarthy's mad because he wants to run the ball more. We're not running the ball enough.
Now you put him and Brandon Staley together.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Your concern level with L'Jarius Sneed? He missed all of OTAs.
It's high.
Yeah, to give an update on that for listeners. He missed all of OTAs and minicamp, and he last practiced on July 28th.
Yep. It's high.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really know the situation other than what Andy Reid has told us, which is that he's been dealing with knee inflammation, and his detailed answer was more of, want to make sure that he's ready by the beginning of the season, so he's not dealing with it into the season.
We're managing it, I think he said a couple of times.
And that's scary. I mean, because what you're describing there is a chronic condition.
Yeah.
And if that's something that's going to be a consistent issue, is that something that's going to keep him out of games? Well, at this point, it's certainly going to make him rusty starting the season because he hasn't gotten the snaps.
Yeah, we talk about Chris Jones not out there. Well, can Chris Jones play in week 1? He hasn't been out there practicing.
Jerry Sneed has like 4 more practices under his belt.
Yeah,
because remember, he really didn't practice during the OTA. I mean, like you say, he missed OTAs, so he really came back for 4 practices.
He was staying on the sideline with his helmet during OTAs. He's there, but he wasn't practicing. And also, if it's the knee that you're managing, I'm going to guess that Chris Jones is in better shape right now than L'Jarius Sneed because Chris Jones isn't dealing with the knee inflammation that he's trying to manage and missing practice. He's working out, staying in shape, and L'Jarius Sneed's not able to do that right now.
I can make an argument that I'm not sure this is the right argument, but I think I could have made the argument that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th most important players on the Chiefs had like 6 total practices this offseason.
I'm going to say Jones, Sneed, Tony.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, Tony, that might be kind of high for Tony, but in terms of like the ceiling of the offense and everything, that is kind of wild. Back to that point of like Chris Jones, being a holdout, this team is falling apart.
Yeah.
If the 3rd, 4th, and 5th most important players on this team have actually really only practiced like 6 times this entire offseason, anything the Chiefs do here could be talked about and framed completely differently because any other team suffering those 3 losses there'd be dirt on their coffin right now.
Is there an element of, I've looked at, you know what, I want to take a break and ask you this. We've talked about Williams and Watson, but I want to get Matt's opinion on if the coaches are presenting something publicly for the purposes more of privately, but they may be misconstruing it publicly to then have something happen privately. And what I'm talking about is Shane Bichelle.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 8.
right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, and Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest. I love the shirt. I love when you're rocking the All Juice teams, man.
That's right.
They're great. That one with the orange slice.
Yes.
It's great with the football. Oh, those are football seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, football
Yeah.
seeds.
Football seeds.
And black and gold.
Yes, that's right. Black and yellow, black and yellow. You know, this time next week, Matt will be breaking down a Missouri game.
I will be there. So
Be here or there?
I will be there
Oh, at the Mizzou game.
at the Mizzou game. So
He'll be breaking down at the Mizzou game.
I
That's
will-
right.
I will when I see you next Friday. Exactly. I will be
We'll be talking
fresh
about.
off the coverage.
We'll be talking about backup quarterbacks for Mizzou and how much Sam Horn played. So we'll be discussing because that's what
you
everybody.
can't win a national championship without Sam Horn.
You know
That's what I'm saying.
every Missouri fan is watching is. How's Luther Burden being used? And when the hell is Sam Horn going to be in the game, damn it?
Says the guy who says that the Chiefs can't win with a backup quarterback.
Well, Missouri ain't winning a national title, and the Chiefs can win a. I think the Chiefs can win the national championship
Jason
with
just
Shane
hates
Michelle.
all of his teams. That's what I've learned.
What happens to Mizzou football?
I'm the overconfident one.
What happens to Mizzou football with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback?
They win the national title.
Probably, right?
You saw that at Texas Tech.
Here's the thing.
Exactly, I was
Here's the
gonna
thing.
say, I mean,
I really feel like every basketball version of that is, they win the whole thing. LeBron and like 4 kids from just like playing at the Y. Yeah, no, they're gonna.
LeBron and 4 kids from Bishop Sycamore.
Yes, they're gonna win the NCAA tournament or
Winning the
whatever.
NCAA tournament.
Like that game is fun. LeBron on the 16 seed. They've
Yes.
won. They're winning the tournament.
That's right.
I don't know what happens with 2023 Patrick Mahomes on. I was gonna say a lesser roster. I don't want to draw your ire here, but. I don't know what happens.
Much
Well,
lesser
Mizzou
roster.
does have a defense.
Yeah.
So,
There's a chance.
So then all he has to
There's
do
a
is
chance.
be a game manager, really.
Manage the game, find Luther Burden.
Patrick Mahomes, be a game manager. He
There
does
you
that. Patrick Mahomes does a hell of a job managing the game right now.
although, did you see that? I mean, I can't remember who it was. I know Gabe DeArmond retweeted it in front of me, but the 3 players since 2012, the 3 true freshmen in the SEC who have had 8 touchdowns from scrimmage since 2012. It was what? Pickens. I think Jamar Chase
That would make sense.
and Luther Burden.
Interesting. Wow.
3 true freshmen with
that's
8
right.
touchdowns in the SEC
Burden,
in the
a
last
first, second round
10
pick.
seasons.
Sorry, I couldn't think of Gabe's Twitter handle off the top of my head. So.
Power Mizzou. So,
And no, it's Power Mizzou Com.
oh, sorry.
That's why
Just,
I got.
you should tweet and say what channel's the game on Thursday. Just tweet at him.
Exactly how you get Gabe's attention.
Tweet at him about the game. So I teased as we went into the break on if there's something publicly the Chiefs are doing, coaches, that is sort of an impact privately that may not be as serious as I'm inferring it to be. What I mean by that is as we connect it to L'Jarius Sneed. You've been watching all the practices, so you are the person that I want to talk to about this. We've discussed Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson, and Andy Reid, really Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt have talked about their camps. And Dave Merritt saying, the sophomore slump, and you won a championship, and they're sort of reading the papers.
It's Amari Cooper, George Pickens, and Luther Burden.
Okay.
SEC true
I was afraid that Chase was the one I got wrong.
SEC true freshman wide receivers with 8 touchdowns from scrimmage since 2012. Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Luther Burden.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Back to your
Amari
proposal.
Cooper was, yes.
So
Thank
Luther
you.
Burden will be playing in the AFC North. Go ahead and count that right now. The Dave Merritt, they've been reading the papers about themselves, which is zero chance they're doing that. And then Steve Spagnuolo saying, it's been an up and down camp for them. So you've been watching. Here's my question. If there is concern about L'Jarius Sneed and how much he'll play, and there's going to be more on the plate of Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but publicly, is there a chance or a philosophy or strategy that Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt are presenting it as in like, these guys have not been good, to even challenge more of your level of expectation has to be higher, 1, because it's your second year, 2, because you're going to freaking play because number 29 ain't out there, or 39. He ain't out there. He's not playing. You got to go and play. So is there a chance that maybe they're not having as bad of camps as I would infer by their words? You've watched all of the practices. Maybe it's a public, even more of a challenge that we're going to need you more this year than we did last year. So take ownership. Somebody take the freaking job because we need you.
Yeah, I think in my sense is that it's more about challenging those guys to be better than they were last year and to elevate their game. Because the word that you really hear about with those guys is inconsistency. And that's what they're lacking, and that's where they've been struggling. It's just been maybe, the little rookie mistakes popping up here and there. And honestly, I think that most of the things that they're talking about are probably things that we're not seeing. There are probably some things that are happening behind the scenes. And there are probably some really tiny, minute details because by my eye, by my test, I don't think that either one of them have had particularly bad camps. But then again, to your point, they're demanding more of them from this year. Those guys had good seasons last year. Were they great? No, they were good seasons, and maybe they were really good seasons for rookies. But were they Pro Bowl seasons? Were they starter caliber seasons? No, those guys made rookie mistakes last year. Yeah. For all the great moments that both of them had, they had learning opportunities. But that's the challenge, is that the Chiefs do not want and don't expect those guys to be as good as they were last year. They expect them both to be better. And that's what I think they're throwing down the gauntlet, trying to challenge them to be. And now even more so when guys start dropping because, I think one of it was, first of all, was when Najee Johnson passed them. I think that was one of them was like, hey, guys, wait a minute. You guys were better than he was last year. Why are you letting him get by you? You should be better than he is. So, Najee playing in front of them was maybe another little, throwing down the gauntlet to those guys to challenge them. Based on what we've seen, our eyes, this team right now, they're trusting Joshua Williams more. He's the guy who started. Who started. He's been getting more of the reps. Watson's been more the third guy that comes in. There were times when they were giving, Boydo an opportunity to come in, so he was even playing ahead of Jalen Watson at one point. And Khalif Falassi, has also been getting, some opportunities here and there. That's why, I think that especially with the injuries they've got, because I'm assuming that the Chiefs are going to try and get Nick Jones onto return injury reserve. So they want to make up on the 53, put him on injury reserve so he can return later this season. But with Nick Jones out, Najee Johnson, you don't know if you're going to have L'Jarius Sneed or not. I think he's an open question about whether he starts season on injured reserve at this point since he hasn't played.
Yeah, that's
what's the concern? Point. And if he's not going to be available or he needs to, be on a snap count, are you going to need down to both Halassi and Boydo? You might need both those guys. Maybe you need DiCaprio Boodle. That's why, to me, the list extends on some decisions and questions because they've got three guys in that cornerback group, top six, that they don't know if they have them right now.
And obviously I was talking about number 29, LaMichael Piran and Lamar Jackson, and number 39, Reese Taylor and Jaron Ely. Not talking about 38, L'Jarius Sneed, when I said 39 is not going to be out there. Because I promise you that 39 will not be out there for the Chiefs. And that's a concern.
There'll be a couple of 39s.
Yes.
I was going to jump in on 29.
38.
I knew that wasn't right.
Yeah.
39, I was like, that also I can't remember what
I combined my 29
right
and my 30-something, and I'm like, 39? Oh, I'm just going to move on.
LJ. Yes. We just call him LJ.
And we do just call him that LJ, Mr. Sneed. But yeah, and they like Nick Jones. I haven't got to see him play.
Nick Jones has been good,
and so they like what they were getting from him. So yeah, and I think if Sneed isn't out there, there's a lot more on Shamari Connor, which is why I think it's been important that what I'm seeing from him. It's not important that I'm seeing something, but it's important that we're seeing him at least go out there, hold his own, play, tackle, be in position a couple of times. That's been good to see because I didn't know what Shamari Connor would be. The scout on him was he's going to be a special teams ace from day one, but there are a number of things he needs to work on. But athletically and lengthwise, he's got the profile of a L'Jarius Sneed.
And I've always thought that was an interesting comparison because with the Chiefs, with him coming in, they've talked about him being a safety from day one. It's not talking about him in corner terms.
And Sneed was talked about as being a corner the second they drafted him, even though he had played safety his last year at Tech.
What I've
or
seen,
wherever he played.
But what I've seen of Connor in this training camp and in the preseason, to me, he reminds me a lot of 2019 Kendall Fuller. When the Chiefs moved him back to safety, essentially.
Yeah, when he was like the one deep.
Yeah, because he could play safety, he could move him in the box, but they could put him on the slot. And
number 29, by the way.
Number 29, there you go. But they could put him, Cook and Matthew, Justin Reed. Here I am, because basically we're talking about the same thing here. We're talking about, Justin Reed and Tyrann Mathieu being on one side. essentially,
Yeah.
replacing. And then, the Kendall Fuller, Tremonti Connor example on the other side. And that's how, Spags did it in that second half of 19. And then you were able to kind of, defenses didn't know who was going to be lining up where and where the coverage was going to be. And they could adapt easily when teams were moving things around in motion. So Connor gives them a lot of flexibility. And I've been impressed. And they clearly value that.
We'll go to break, and I do want to get your thoughts on the latest with there's been no communication with Chris Jones. But before we go to break, because we have just a short amount of time, that's why I'm asking it right now, who do you think the backup quarterback is going to be?
I still think it's going to be Blaine Gabbert, but I also think all three of them are going to make the 53, so it's probably not a huge debate.
You think all three of them are going to make the 53?
And we'll take a break. Matt Derrick here with us in the zone on Sports Radio.
No, I'm just joking. I do want his opinion on who he thinks is going to win up the backup.
They might keep 4 quarterbacks. No.
But who do you like? You do think it's ultimately going to be Blaine Gabbert?
I think it ultimately will. Clearly they value that experience in that position. I do think that Buechele has shown that he's got the ability to handle it. I don't think there's any doubt. But you know what? The Chiefs also thought they might have a guy who could handle it in Tyler Bray. And we saw what happened when Tyler Bray went into a game.
Which is the only time a third-string quarterback has taken snaps for Andy Reid.
And despite your, adamant belief that the Chiefs are a 1-16 football team without Patrick Mahomes.
So I said I want them to go 1-16 if Patrick Mahomes is done for the year.
They want to go 16-1 no matter who the quarterback is.
I agree.
And they know Blaine Gabbert's a known quantity. They know that if Blaine Gabbert had to go in and play, he's not going to pee down his leg, that he's going to be fine. And so I think I don't think they really have that concern about Buechele. I think they feel pretty comfortable with him. But I think there's also a little bit of that, hey, this is the NFL. This is a team that can win the Super Bowl every single year. They don't want to throw up the white flag if they lose a quarterback or two. So I think, and I don't think there's any way that Buechele clears waivers.
I don't think they should throw up the white flag if they lose a quarterback or two, as long as neither of those quarterbacks is Patrick Mahomes.
And they are so, this is a little tiny factor, but they are so cash strapped that you almost have to look at every little detail.
Yeah, that's true.
And, Blaine Gabbert's got like $1 million guaranteed of his contract. Like 80% of his contract is guaranteed. So I can't see cutting him because right now, they couldn't afford to literally cut him right now.
Yeah. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we will get Matt Derrick's thoughts on the no communication with Chris Jones and concern about missing game number 1, and Steve Spagnuolo already saying, now you're talking about reps and sort of managing that whenever he gets back.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810.
All right, Matt. No communication right now, according to Andy Reid, between Chris Jones and the Chiefs. Steve Spagnuolo talking about managing reps at this point when you're now less than 2 weeks away from the season starting. DEFCON 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I was at DEFCON 5 when he was missing things over the summer because didn't care. It's going to be fine. I'm at least 2. I mean, I might be approaching 1 as the days go by. If they return on Monday and he's still sitting out and we're like, okay, it's no longer preseason, and clearly wasn't about missing St. Joe.
Yeah, I there's part of my gut that wants to go to DEFCON 1, but I guess at DEFCON 1 you've turned your key. I mean,
yeah, DEFCON 1 is nuclear imminent. So
I would classify DEFCON 1, I guess, as being that talks are ongoing between the Chiefs and the Lions to send Chris to Detroit. We're not there yet.
You know, DEFCON 1 might be 13 days from now, and Chris Jones still isn't with the Chiefs.
Yeah,
because then he's missing the first game of the season and still hasn't signed.
I'm probably with you. I mean, I would say DEFCON 2. I mean, we are in a territory that I don't know that either side thought that they were going to be in. Even a couple of weeks ago, I don't think the Chiefs thought they were going to be here. I mean, I think every day they've woken up with the expectation that things were going to get done at some point, and probably that day. But there's no indication that's happening now, and I've been team, that Chris is going to get this done eventually too. But how seriously do you take his social media? I don't. How much of it is with a grain of salt that you have to take it? But I know he's not helping himself. I know it's not sending the right message to both the organization and the guys in the locker room. So, and I thought, I listened to Anthony Sherman and what he said, his perspective on it, and about, hey, guys on the team are worrying about themselves. I mean, that's their job. I mean, they're worrying about the guy in front of them. They're worrying about, their own job. They're worrying about getting their own things done. They can't worry too much about Chris. But at the same time, it comes up. I mean, it can't. It can't not to.
Tim Grunhard talked about it this morning that said, it'll start to infiltrate the locker room when games are played, or if he's not there, reps are being missed, losses are happening. That, I worry about my job. I'm getting paid, so that's great. I'm here, but there's a lot of players on the team that aren't worried about job security, that are wanting to win championships, that are looking at it and saying, I know you want your money, but now we're losing games, or we are lesser than as a team because you want more money than you already have. He did say it'll start to infiltrate the locker room, and that's somebody who's been in a lot of locker rooms.
And the really funny thing is that a friend of mine sent me video from Chris on a Zoom, which I think was
that's right,
the Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, in 2022 or something like that, or 2021.
I think it would have been 2021 when after Mathieu had the little toxic fan moment, and his advice to Tyrann was stay off Twitter, man. Stay off social media.
I think there were 2 separate Chris Jones presser Zoom clips going around in the last couple of days, that being one of them. I think there was one from literally this last December also about not taking his social media too seriously. Lessons we could all use.
There's no doubt. He's having fun.
He's
and,
bored.
He shouldn't be. So I think my point to him.
Well, so let me ask you this then, Matt. You say that, you don't think anyone on the Chiefs expected it to get to this point. Patrick Mahomes said that. Whose fault is that? Did the Chiefs misjudge this from the beginning, or did the goalposts get moved?
I mean, everybody's going to have their own point to it, and we haven't heard. I have not heard directly from Chris's side about what their take on it is, but I mean, from what I've been told, I mean, I think you had to put a big side on Chris's side and his representation, because there was virtually no communication and discussion until July, and that was purposeful, because the message that I was hearing was, Chris's team is waiting until Quinnen Williams and these other deals get done because they want to see where the market ends up. And if that's the case, I think you have to take the blame for it, because if you've gotten here, if your demand all along was that you want to be the highest paid player in the league at your position, I think you could have told that in March. I don't think you need to wait until July to tell that to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully next week we're talking about something different, and we're talking about him in camp and getting ready for that first game of the season. Thank you, Matt. You're the man.
Thanks, guys.
At Central Bank, we know every journey and spark of inspiration has a starting point. It's practice, persistence, and the support.
Hold on, we're back. I mean, I get a little annoyed at the show interrupting our conversations off the air. I mean,
Guys, please, not 10 more minutes of Chris Oladukin talk. I can't do it.
Oh, there was a lot of Chris talk. It just wasn't. That's for sure. Matt,
Bye,
you're
Matt.
the man. Bye, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
Hey, that's Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, everybody.
Bye, buddy. Hope you
find your defensive tackle. Hope you find your contract.
Hope you find your Jones.
You feel better or worse? I feel worse.
I feel the same. I mean, 'cause it's sort of all. I mean, you know.
I've been trending towards worse feelings with Chris Jones for long enough now that I just every day I feel like I'm degrading by another couple percentages.
Yeah, and I just I do wonder if the smartest strategy now moving forward is just he plays on the contract this year. If you're the Chiefs, plays on the contract this year, franchise him next year, and if he doesn't want to play on the franchise tag next year, well then he doesn't play. He sits out a full year, but he would get $34 million next year, or you franchise and trade him.
Yeah.
Next year, which could be a possibility. But if he plays out the rest of his contract this year, and then you franchise him and he plays, you've paid him $53 million over 2 years. And you got to go year by year, and you don't have to worry about, well, we got him 4 years, and we got to take this huge dead cap hit because now it's going to be an entire $34 million cap hit next year. So you've got to account for that, which will be tough. But, you would at least have some security in if he starts to fall off, and if he's, injured or something like that, we're not stuck over the next 2 or 3 years having to deal with adjusting the cap and him not being out there. They can just simply walk. And I think Chris Jones has to be aware of that, because now you're looking at $53 million over 2 years, and then being a free agent, and then being a 31-year-old free agent defensive tackle. Are you going to get the money that is offered right now that you would get in year 3 and year 4? That right now is not even part of a discussion if you don't sign the new contract, because you're only there this year and you know what the salary cap or the franchise tag number would be next year.
And getting to legit free agency is obviously like the goal in an NFL contract. So that's why Kirk Cousins was breaking records, is because he hit legitimate free agency. The difference is that doing that when you're, like you said, 31 years old as a defensive tackle, Chris Jones could play for the Chiefs these next 2 years and be paid very well for it, and then hit free agency and then be paid very well then, because you can take the best offer that any team will give you. And if somebody right now might take the offer that Chris Jones wants at this point.
And if he's playing at the level he is right now, he's going to get a massive amount of money in 2 years. Right.
The burden of proof then shifts back to the player, and you say, all right, play at this level or a similar level for these next 2 seasons. And still, you don't get to hide your age from teams. It's not like they're going to just say, oh, wow, 3 incredible years in a row. You've probably got 3 or 4 more incredible years at this pace in you still, right? Well, no, because you don't expect that to continue through ages 32, 3, 4, 5. And that I still think is part of it right now. When we talk about this guaranteed money and guaranteed years and all of that, I mean, if we're talking about average annual value, this conversation's even stupider than it seems. In reality, it's probably about security in the long term. And Chris Jones and his camp, the thing that's bizarre is that your only chance to extend your long-term stability is by signing your contract extension this offseason. Otherwise, you're going into a brand new NFL season where you haven't been practicing and you haven't been getting in football shape leading up to the year. And that's the year you want to leave in people's minds. And I don't know, man. I think that this is we're either going to see a contract that comes down in the next week, or I think we're going to watch Chris Jones play an upset and final year with the Chiefs before next year is the tag and trade kind of foregone conclusion.
And the difficulty of both sides, of the player and the team, of the timing of it.
Yeah.
When the team is understandably skeptical of a player coming off his best year of his career and then signing him to a contract based on that year. And the player, understandably, wants to get paid coming off the best year of his career and say, this is the level of player I am. Because right now, there is no debating. The best year of Chris Jones' career was last year.
Yep.
It was a significant increase. So the question then people have is this the guy he is moving forward? Or was last year the peak of his ability, and there's an expected sort of water finding its level over the next 3 years, and that's what the Chiefs are wanting to pay, is the water finding its level And the Katz brothers want him being paid as one of, if not the most dominant defensive players in the league last year, just happened to be at defensive tackle. The timing is crazy because the Ravens paid Joe Flacco all that money in the offseason after winning the Super Bowl and going 11 touchdowns, no interceptions through the playoffs. Do the Ravens really walk away from a quarterback in Joe Flacco that just won you a Super Bowl and didn't throw an interception? And if he goes somewhere else and wins, you look like the idiots that let somebody go. Or do you pay him the money, which they did, and in reality, he's Joe Flacco. And that was an amazing run, but not a guy that's ever going to be able to repeat that. I mean, Steven Strasburg, in the news, yesterday or the day before when he decided to retire. And because he's retiring because of injury, he gets every cent of the $245 million contract that he signed coming off a World Series MVP. He's played 7 games. He's made 7 starts. He signed a $245 million contract.
Crazy.
He's made 7 starts since then, and he gets every single cent of that because he's retiring for injury, and it wasn't insured for injury. The timing of it. If it was the next year when he started having some injury troubles, Ohtani right now, the bad timing, what are the Nationals signed Steven Strasburg to? But they signed him at the peak of his value, and it was the timing of the peak of his value signing that contract. Jones is at the peak of his value, which is why understandably the Chiefs don't want to pay him that, and why understandably Jones and the Katz brothers want that money.
And it's tough because, last year, I think it's fair to say, was the first time that Chris Jones was better than Aaron Donald, more impactful than Aaron Donald on the field more, and a better player when he was on the field. A tremendous trait that is not an exaggeration. Chris Jones is second-team All-Pro 3 of the 4 years before that, a Pro Bowler 3 of the 4 years before that. Last year, he had 15.5 sacks. He also had 15.5 sacks in 2018. He's been outstanding through his entire career. A little bit of a health thing here or there over the last couple of years has been a little bit of a dampener at times, but he's been excellent. But, again, the Chris Jones camp, Katz brothers, are saying pay him like Aaron Donald because last year, pay him better than Aaron Donald perhaps because last year he was better than Aaron Donald. His track record the years prior would indicate that he is the second best interior defensive lineman in football. Which is why I understand even getting to that point of saying, all right, here's our range. He is going to be at least the second highest paid defensive tackle in football, and we think he's closer to Aaron Donald than he is to Quinnen Williams. By level of performance, that all makes sense. But the contracts are going forward. They are not for here's an adjustment to the value you provided over these last several years. Chris Jones might have been a little bit underpaid last season, and I wouldn't even have a hard time arguing that. But being able to make that be the projection for the next several years, it's frustrating to even tinker around the average annual value stuff. Wouldn't blame Chris Jones one bit if he says, I have had this incredible career. I've played 100+ games with the Chiefs. I've done it in the regular season in lesser years. I've done it in the regular season in Super Bowl winning years. I've done it in the playoffs. Don't make me wonder if I'm still going to be here when I'm 32. And I get that. But it is so frustrating to me because this should have been an easy marriage. This just should have gotten done. This should have already happened. The fact that it wasn't, Quinnen Williams deal, Chris Jones deal, 2 days later, kind of bothers me because the Chiefs need him, and he only has so much leverage because he is under contract right now. Really frustrating that this is something we're talking about on August 25th.
Well, and it's, how important is it for you to play on a team, or how important is it for you to have that player? Because Chris Jones can say, I want to be a Chief for life, and I don't want to play anywhere else, and I want to be on this team, and we're going to get something done. I'm going to be in Kansas City. And the Chiefs can say, our priority all offseason has been to extend Chris Jones, to pay him to make sure he's on this team, which is great. But clearly the priority for the Chiefs is to extend Chris Jones and have him a part of the team closer to their terms. And Chris Jones wants to be a Chief for life and wants to be in Kansas City for a certain amount of money. Everybody has that level of, to a degree. Our priority is to keep Chris Jones. To a degree. My priority is to finish my career in Kansas City. but not for what I think is way undervalued that you guys are paying me. Show some respect to me. If it was just simply about I've made more money than I'm going to spend and I'm going to get a whole lot more, I'm going to get another 60 or 70 million more, whatever it might be, and I get to play with the Chiefs, all good, man. Get it done. I don't remember who the player was it was Justin Watson. And we are not dealing with Chris Jones contracts with Justin Watson. But when Justin Watson's agents were talking to different teams and he kept saying, just go to the Chiefs. Just sign what the Chiefs are offering. I want to play for the Chiefs. Okay, we're looking at this team. Let's go to the Chiefs. Let's just sign let's go with the Chiefs are offering. And eventually Justin Watson was like, hey, you work for me. I'm playing for the Chiefs. Okay. So he did look around. And he might have had a little bit more money to play on a different team. But it was worth it to return to the Chiefs. Now, $200,000 worth it to return to the Chiefs? Or if a team was offering $5 million instead of $1 million? Sorry, Patrick, Andy, Nagy, I love you,
Been
man.
a blast.
It has been great, but I'm going somewhere else.
Yep.
There's a level of that. So you're not dealing with $20, $30 million that maybe Chris Jones is dealing with when you say, hey, I told my agent, Chiefs, whatever they're doing, we're signing with the Chiefs. Take the best offer from the Chiefs. And I think there's been somebody else that said, take the best offer from the Chiefs. And that's where I'm going.
And you can do however much wiggle room you want with that. I'm never going to say players like need to take a hometown discount or that there's, hey, you need to value this versus this. Guys are going to come to their own conclusions for whatever reasons, and that's fine. The part where I do end up in that headspace on Jones's side is that if that's the direction you feel like you're heading to the direction of, if they're not going to pay every penny of what I am worth, and we will make sure that I am getting that every single dollar. Which again, I don't know if that was a Chris Jones statement or a Katz Brothers statement or what. But if you are making that statement at some point, you need to do that in February, maybe March, certainly April, because that's the month where the draft is. If you really do think this is going to be an untenable situation, it is on either the team or the agents. And in a competent relationship, the team and the agents, it is on them to communicate, hey, we are going to draw, just so you guys know, if we're still here in August, Chris Jones will miss week 1 if we're not making money right there with Aaron Donald. That's got to get communicated before the draft if you actually do believe that your best chance to get that money is with another team. That's what Tyreek Hill ended up doing. That for however that all came together with Rosenhaus and the Chiefs, and how serious of a destination was the Jets, or was he only wanting to go to Miami? They figured it out. And whatever happened there behind the scenes, they made sure there was at least enough of a threat of the Jets are interested, the Chiefs wanted to pay him all of this. The Chiefs got pretty good value for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
They got pretty good value.
Comparatively speaking to Devontae Adams, I think the Chiefs, above and beyond what I think value might have been at the time because of, timing of it.
And they had the chance not only to get that value, but to get it at a time when you can use some of that value to bolster your current team.
Yeah.
They did not trade Tyreek Hill at a horrible loss, and they did not trade him at a time where they couldn't use any of that return for another year. That's what we're talking about now with Chris Jones potentially getting traded. If they say, oh, okay, now we are drawing the line in the sand, and now we all know where our line is, and if you're not going to pay us, trade us somewhere where they will pay us. Sorry, guys. The season starts in an hour. There is nothing the Chiefs can do here. Trade Chris Jones. I'm just using Washington because Bieniemy's there. I know he was the offensive coordinator. We're building the culture here with the Commanders. Trade him and Chase Young's a free agent after this year. He's been injured. It's weird. Figure out your Chase Young and pick. So the Chiefs get a player back in this hypothetical, right? Cool. You're not going to get a team over a barrel to give you real value for Chris Jones. And how many teams in the NFL can take on Chris Jones's current cap hit right now while they get that deal done? It's just complicated and convoluted in a way that if this was really headed to divorce, they should have gotten divorced before the draft. Now we're here at the end of the summer, and we really don't know what's next. And it really is leaving me with a sour taste in my mouth.
Well, and the one thing that I would disagree with sort of fans or just a general take on Chris Jones or any player that's already on your team. Because if I'm Chris Jones and I'm sitting back and wanting a new contract, and there's this sort of mantra of, well, Patrick Mahomes took less money, and Travis Kelce isn't getting paid as the highest tight end. Why can't you, because you want to be on the Chiefs, why can't you take a discount? And if I'm Chris Jones and I say, hold on, I get a discount and take less money because I'm already on the team, while I've helped you win 2 trophies, but you paid a premium free agent for Jawan Taylor? I don't remember fans saying, why is Jawan Taylor wanting $20 million a year? Just take a discount to be on the Chiefs. You get to be on the Chiefs. You understand how much better you're going to be by being on the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes than staying in Jacksonville? Why would you ask for a premium free agency, Jawan Taylor, you selfish mother? Blah, blah, blah. Chris Jones, what the hell's your problem? Take a hometown discount, man. Stay in Kansas City. Why would you ask for the most possible money that you can get in Kansas City? Well, because we already know you. Why don't you stay here? Other guys have done that. Well, then Jawan Taylor should have done that. And anybody else they sign should have done that. So I'm Chris Jones. I understand that. I'm not taking a hometown discount because I've been here. That's kind of the point why I want the premium.
Right.
Is because there's 2 trophies. That guy got the premium, and he hasn't played it down for this team.
That's another thing that we've talked about briefly here and there that I do think is in the locker room conversation. Different conversation is, what if you're a defensive player in that locker room who looks around and goes, so we had a guy who was the best player in the conference last year, and he couldn't get paid. Tyrann Mathieu was here for 1 contract, and then you let him walk. L'Jarius Sneed's over here in the training room with his knee. Don't think he's probably going to be here next. What does it take to be a defensive player who gets a real contract extension in Kansas City? Is there a path to that?
Well, Chris Jones got one, though.
He did.
So he got a real one the first go-around.
He did, but he's playing his best football here and has won Lombardi trophies on these deals. It is interesting to have that thought of your best defensive player and your top couple of best defensive players over the last few years have had kind of some similar experiences. Again, look, man, guys are still going to sign to play for the Chiefs. Guys are still going to sign when they are getting deals that they like the value of. Jawan Taylor, no one's going to ask you to take a discount when you're a free agent because you know you've got other offers. If you're a premier player, maybe it's $20 million, $18 million, $19 million. Maybe Jawan Taylor had a $22 million offer somewhere else, and he said, I'm going to go ahead and take 20 per and block for Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how much the left tackle, right tackle part came into that conversation, but it is an interesting little trickle-down effect of, oh, well, if the best players here aren't getting paid and I'm Nick Bolton, should I just start preparing on finishing my career in the NFC somewhere? I don't know.
If I was Nick Bolton, I would.
Yeah.
I think every single player and their agent should be doing that because, look, I mean, we went through the Chiefs' history of
I don't
signing.
think the Chiefs are wrong to think that way, by the way. It's an interest. No. It's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the history of the Chiefs with Brett Veach and, signing players to second contracts, and they simply don't. And it's just not something that they have really done. There's been a few. There have been, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, it's Travis Kelce, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Chris Jones, and I believe that's it. Those are the ones that were signed to extend. Eric Fisher.
To multi-year extensions.
And Eric Fisher. Draft picks. Yeah. Draft picks. And Eric Fisher, that was because Mitchell Schwartz had an extension and stuff like that. But draft picks that then they signed to second contracts after they were drafted. Those are the guys. 6 players, 5 of them offensive players, 1 defensive player in Chris Jones. But essentially, it kind of goes and connects to the average career for the NFL is like, 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's how hard it is to play in the NFL. Right, but also once you get to your second contract, teams go, yeah, you're not worth what I have to pay your second contract, so good luck playing somewhere else. And the other team goes, yeah, you're not worth what you're going to be asking for a second contract, so, we're going to get a rookie that's going to take your spot because you're just not good enough. When you were on a rookie contract, you were good enough to be on this team.
Yeah.
Well, now you're on a second contract. Well, the average career is like, yes, because of some of the finances, because your guaranteed minimum salary by the CBA has guaranteed that nobody wants you on their team. And it's worked against you there. So you go and you rehash with some guys that are in the draft. And it might be even where, okay, you are worth a little bit more, but your play isn't such that I'm worth to pay you a little bit more over what I'm going to get from a rookie. Like I'm not going to, that difference, the difference in money is not commensurate with the difference in play that I'm going to get from a rookie, so I'm going to go on the rookie contract. And the Chiefs have typically lived by that strategy, which works when you've been drafting lately as well as the Chiefs have been drafting. You have a couple of 2018 drafts.
Yep.
and you're probably more interested in re-signing Juan Thornhill.
That's
You're
exactly
probably
right.
more interested in bringing back Charvarius Ward.
Yep. That's the. I was just waiting over here for that.
Sorry.
And no. Look, you put a bow on your own point. I'm glad you're wrapping it yourself.
I'm gonna go home.
No, that's okay. Oh, you get to pack it and wrap it and put the bow on. I was saying with the bow.
So
here, you get a second bow, and then I can unwrap it. We're having fun.
So I can have my cake and eat it too.
You can have your cake and eat it too.
'Cause that'd be
It's
weird
Christmas on Sports Radio.
So it'd be weird if I had my cake but I couldn't eat it. Why couldn't I not eat my cake?
Yeah, that phrasing in that never. I understand
Dumb.
the point of it, but the phrasing of that did confuse me throughout many of
How
my childhood
selfish
years.
is this guy? He wants to have a cake specifically for him and eat it.
That really does always feel like the main thing here is there are at least 2 slices of cake, and I'm making sure that they're both under my umbrella. Kind of a rude kid.
Well, it's like, before school in high school, you might be in the commons area and maybe you can go and get some breakfast or something. You had those amazing cookies that were there. I'm not sure if other high schools had that or not. But you'd go and you might get a bag of like 4 unbelievable cookies, and then you'd be eating them, right? Or maybe save them for later in the day, and somebody like, hey, man, can I have one of those? No. That's selfish, dude. Well, it's selfish because I bought it and I want to eat it. Like, that's not really selfish. I paid for it. If you would like to pay me some money, I can give you one of these cookies, but you can also go right in there and get your own.
Is
But
it
that's
different?
just selfish.
Is it different if you ask your mom for one of the cookies in the school lunchroom? And
How much are you
she
paying?
refuses?
How much are you having to pay?
My undying love.
Does she load your lunch account with
Yeah.
money?
Yeah,
Each day?
I had a little ID card. It was just cut out of some like construction paper. I wrote my own name and drew a little headshot and everything.
That's how she's teaching finance. She's refilling your debit card just for school lunches.
Just swoop. It's like, all right, I've itemized each object.
She puts prices on the different things
The
for
pepper
school
jack
lunch.
cheese went up by a quarter. What happened? What?
Inflation.
Supply and demand.
Sorry.
You keep eating all the pepper jack.
There's only 2 slices left, and I ain't going to the store anytime soon.
You can have that Swiss cheese for 15 cents. I don't want the Swiss cheese.
That pepper jack cheese slice is now $15.
Okay.
Because I ain't going to the store anytime soon, and there's only one left. So do you want it or not? How badly? What's your priority? How badly do you want to stay right here and eat that pepper jack cheese?
This jar of insulin in the fridge is how much? What?
Well, that's kind of true,
That
right?
one's just
And
true. That
that's
one's
just,
that one's
it's just-
actually not a joke.
Hold on, you're raising the price just because people need it to survive?
That's a weird thing. I didn't even know they could do that.
That's really awesome. Gosh. You gotta love healthcare, making money off of people's livelihoods.
Seems very normal and the only way to do it, I'm sure.
Totally fine. Oh my goodness, everybody needs this or you're gonna die?
So anyway,
I bet you're willing to pay more money for it.
My Chris Jones insulin auction, I'll go ahead and begin this weekend. I'll put the details up on Facebook later. And
maybe the Chiefs can just pay Chris Jones an insulin.
Look, man,
It'd only take like two vials or whatever.
It would be a smaller duffel bag than cash, I think.
Yeah, that's would the duffel bag be bigger if just filled with insulin or $100 bills?
I think
it'd be.
we'll have to look at the prices again.
Yeah, I'm not going.
We've had some small victories in that
That's
front,
good.
but
That's
you
awesome.
know.
Yeah, you know what? There have been some small victories.
it's-
Hopefully, there are more that can stack on top of
Yeah,
this.
pharmaceutical
and then you win a
companies
Super Bowl.
doing the right thing. Oh, you meant the Chiefs.
And you.
Could use a little injection of Chris Jones into this roster.
Yeah, I wish Chris Jones was causing more blood while being everybody's little sugar.
Be sweet.
So stupid.
Dumb.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by
sports director, joining us here in the zone for the rest of the show, whether you like it or not.
Oh, we'll see
That's
about
right.
that. You can't keep me here.
Yeah, thank you for being a friend.
You bet. Anytime.
Appreciate that.
Down the road and back again.
Yes. Your heart is true. You know what? You're a pal.
Am I a confidant?
And a confidant. Yep.
How many Golden Girls T-shirts do you have, Mick?
I have 4, I think.
Okay.
That's so great.
I think this is a new one for me.
This is one of my newest. I think my newest, yeah.
I do like it a lot.
Yeah. It's Blanche.
I think it's my
Yes,
favorite.
Blanche.
She's saying, eat dirt and die, trash. Die, comma, trash.
Yeah,
So
die
she's-
trash. Don't die trash. Die you. Trash.
Right. She's talking to the person, and she's calling them trash.
Absolutely. Which she is not. She is very well put together. And
Really? You think so?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, she's got the earrings, the hair's always done, the makeup's always done. She's always wearing like the nicest outfits. Like she's never caught off guard if there might be a man around.
That whole cast is part of the wild theory that people, just like 30 and 40 and 50, but certainly 100 years ago, looked a lot older at their ages than people do now.
Yeah.
Right? The whole of, Wilford Brimley was the same
That's right.
age as Tom Cruise in Cocoon when Wilford Brimley did, when Wilford Brimley did Cocoon, then Tom Cruise did Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah. Tom Cruise is older than Jack Nicholson was in Few Good Men
Yeah.
right now.
That one's
Supposedly, Estelle Getty, who played the oldest one, she was Dorothy's mom, was the youngest.
She was like 50.
She was like the youngest of the 4.
She was actually 25.
Yes.
I mean, who would have thought that was the... See, now the Golden Girls would be like, they would all look like they're 45 right now.
There's this whole Reddit thread where people will put, this is my great-grandfather in 1935, and it looks like a 65-year-old man. Like, he was 29.
Yeah.
Wilford Brimley was 50 while filming Cocoon. Paul Rudd is 54 right now.
Yeah.
And he looks like he did in any movie when he was like in his teens or early 20s. I mean, he just has never aged.
Have you
He's
guys
never
started
aged.
watching Only Murders in the Building?
Ralph Macchio.
He's in the trailer and
Ralph
stuff.
Macchio is older right now than Pat Morita was when he did Karate Kid.
Yeah. And he still looks like Ralph Macchio. He still sounds exactly the same.
He was on Hard Knocks
He was
the
on
other
Hard
night.
Knocks the other night. Yes, that's right. He said, "This is effing." He said, "What?"
Like, is he not going to say
Hold
it?
on. Do you not say that?
Then he said it.
Then he started cursing. It was great. It was funny. Ralph Macchio, huge Jets fan apparently. So he needs balance.
Well, he
said,
was from New Jersey, in at least his character was.
That's true. Yep. So maybe they did tap into his character in
Daniel's
Loving the
son.
Jets. Yes, Danielson.
On July 12th, Eminem met the Brimley Cocoon line,
Oh, really?
becoming the same age as Wilford Brimley the day Cocoon was released.
That's awesome.
I mean, there's how old was Brimley again?
50 and change, I
Okay.
think. Maybe, he may have been 50 during filming.
Lebo's met the.
Soren's met it.
They've met the Brimley line. So
This says he was. Go ahead and do this math for yourself, Jason. Yeah, he was 18,530 days old.
So he's 50 and
Change.
718 hours. Definitely 50 and change.
I think you nailed it.
I love
definitely 718
I love
hours.
the actors who are similar ages but have played each other's parents. Just basically how they look. Like I believe it was Sally Field and Tom Hanks in Punchline were a couple, and then like 7 years later, she was his mom in Forrest Gump.
Oh wow, that's a great.
Just a few years later, and
interesting
everybody
point.
bought it in both movies. Like, yeah, no, that all makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. They are a great couple. Yeah, I could see her being his mom. Yeah, why not? I mean, Catherine O'Hara was like 32 in the first Home Alone.
Was she really?
Yeah, she was like 32 at the filming of the first
She
Home Alone.
looked 45.
Yeah, and she had kids that
Part
were
of it
like,
is like your hairstyle, right?
Yeah,
and
that
what
is
you
true.
wear.
Yeah, although I
Like
think
I'm wearing
yeah.
stuff that a 25-year-old would wear.
That's true. I've often thought we could share clothes.
I'm rocking it.
They always say dress
Like
like
they
the
would,
age
too.
you want to be.
Yeah.
So I was like, can I do radio then? So because that's how I dress like the age I want to be. You want to be like 15?
Yeah,
sure.
let's do it.
Let's do it. That's fine. That's fine with me. It's all good. So I watched. I had been waiting for Swamp Kings for a while. I wanted to see Swamp Kings.
I don't think I'm going to do it now.
And I was totally wrong about the 4. I thought it was the Untold was 4 episodes. Is
that the first multi-episode Untold?
I think it is.
Everyone I've seen has been
Yeah.
one lone episode, And every time it leaves you wanting more, especially in the Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, so it was the Johnny Manziel, it was the Balco this season, but it was Johnny Manziel,
gotcha.
it was Balco, and it was with the social media influence boxers, Jake Paul, Jake Paul, and then it was Swamp King. So I'm like, okay, it's the fourth, and because people are talking about 4 episodes, okay, it's the fourth episode. No, there are actually 4 episodes,
hour apiece,
about
roughly
40 minutes, about 40 minutes or so, and it left a lot to be desired.
Was it executive producer Urban Meyer, writer Urban Meyer, developer Urban Meyer?
Like, it was directed by a member of Urban Meyer's family, I'm pretty convinced. They just changed their name to protect the innocent, which, by the way, not many Gators were.
There's none.
So they were protecting Tim Tebow. That's really it. And it's just like, all it does is go back to that 2006 to 2009 run for Florida and just show you what happened in games and sort of practices. And you got some behind-the-scenes video of them working out. You got some video of the locker rooms where people are cursing and talking about, let's get pumped up and go win this game. And, hey, guys, bleep this and bleep that, and we got to do this to this team, and you guys got to do this and bleep this, and, oh, this was disappointing in the loss, and, oh, we really thought we were going to win a national title or whatever. And somehow they have painted Urban Meyer as this sympathetic figure in this thing. It's unbelievable the way that it's. I counted up the 4 episodes for the math because one of the reasons I was excited about Swamp Kings is maybe there's more information or more reporting on things behind the scenes. Because
the guy that Aaron Hernandez killed down there?
That would be, allegedly. Although, is he going to sue us? I don't know. Does the estate sue us? I'm not sure. If he can't really defend himself right now. Neither could some of the people he killed. So, allegedly. Well, actually, you know what? Not allegedly.
Not allegedly
for some. For some, yeah, that's absolutely right. But the Spotlight group in Boston, the reporters that did Spotlight, they did the podcast Gladiator, which is one of my favorite podcast series. It is so in-depth in the reporting on Aaron Hernandez's life and in Florida. And they have it's like 10 episodes, and there's a couple of episodes that are dedicated just for like the issues at Florida with a guy named Huntley Johnson, who was the, quote, fixer. He was the lawyer. He was the guy that would show up, and all of a sudden there's no police report anymore. This guy's office and the Spotlight crew were able to go in his office, and they're like, his office is filled with Florida memorabilia, autographs everywhere. Any Florida player, Urban Meyer stuff, Steve Spurrier, it is all decked top to bottom with some of the best memorabilia you'll find because, the fixer's going to be a big part of, quote, the program. 2 hours and 25 minutes is the total runtime for the 4 episodes. 2 hours and 25 minutes. 6 minutes and 25 seconds of the legal issues.
No way.
6 minutes and 25 seconds of the legal issues at Florida.
And it's weird because Untold's never shied away from that stuff before. I mean,
it's unbelievable. And
they uncovered, but basically got everybody to admit all the money Johnny Manziel was making.
Right.
They hunted down Manti Te'o's catfisher.
Yeah.
And got
there was
her now to talk.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure. Is it an AI? I think it was AI. Was it Iverson or Iguodala? I can't remember. But there were Aaron Hernandez's name was said 3 times. Twice when there was a play-by-play of him catching a touchdown.
Come on.
And once when Tebow tells the story of Aaron Hernandez knocking out the guy in the restaurant. And I believe that's when he broke the guy's eardrum and everything, that there never ended up being like a police report or anything for. And Tim Tebow tells that story as to why he says it was his fault.
Yeah.
I should have done more. Like, we left there, and Tebow's in different rooms when he's doing it, and most of the time he's whispering. The way we went about when some of the most vile things that you would ever hear said, racist things to him. And I blame myself that, I should have done more to get him out of there. And, but just some awful things that were just said. It's the only story they told about Aaron Hernandez and getting in trouble. And then the rest of the 6 minutes is about Urban Meyer and Avery Atkins, who was a player who was charged with domestic violence at Florida. And they kicked off the team. And a year later, he overdosed on drugs. And most of that is Urban Meyer talking about how he blames himself. And this is why we did things differently at our program, because we've got 2 choices. Cut ties, or how do we make them better? And cut ties was no longer an option. And then Tim Tebow was like, I can't even tell you how many times Urban came to me and said, Tim, what more could I have done for Avery? What more could we have done to save this kid? Like, are you bleeping kidding me? Like, even the kid he kicked off, they made Urban Meyer out to be the saint, as in, like, Urban, thank God you were saving everybody else's life because you learned from your mistake by kicking somebody off the team, which clearly correlation causation as to why this person ended up dying. It had nothing to do with other things going on in their life. Like, it was, the only thing I took away from it was the cautionary tale of the pressures of success. That after the championship season, that next year it was undefeated or bust. And
so they won 07 and 09, is that right?
08.
08
and 09 was the Tim Tebow returning. 08 championship, and then Tim Tebow said, I'll be back for another one. Because 2010...
They didn't win two?
They did with Chris Leak and one with Tim Tebow.
Well, Tebow was on that team, right?
Yeah, so his freshman year and his
So they only
junior.
cover one of the titles?
They cover both of them. So
what were the years? 06, 08?
06 and 08 are the championships.
Tebow was a sophomore and a senior, right? Or is he a freshman? Freshman and a junior. He didn't win his senior.
Because he came back for his senior year.
And they lost to Ole Miss or something like that.
Yeah, and so 2009 was just about how everybody was unhappy. Everybody was miserable while they were undefeated through most of the season. And their only loss was the SEC championship against Alabama that year. They were undefeated until that championship. I didn't realize, looking back, I didn't remember it being 1 versus 2, two undefeated teams, Florida and Alabama in the SEC championship that year. And throughout the season, all you're seeing is just how miserable everybody was, how much they hate, how they weren't winning by enough points, and how they were doing all these things wrong, and the pressure building, and the expectations of when they would win, it wouldn't be by enough, and there would be criticism because they only beat this team by 3 touchdowns, or they beat this team by 10 points, and all of this stuff. And they went through like a game where it was like, I'm like, man, I don't remember them losing this game. Interesting, you know? And then it's like, oh, they ended up winning by 17 points. But the game was like this awful development along the way. Like, that's one of the takeaways is like, even for college kids, right? And maybe even more for college kids because they're not pros, but like the pressure of you're expected to go out and do this. It reminded me a little bit of 2020, that year the Chiefs went 14-1 with their starters. And it was like, this team, what's going on with them? Why aren't they winning? And that was Patrick Mahomes saying, apparently we're not winning by enough, so apparently that's a stat. You know, right now.
Was it 20, was it?
That was the year they ended up losing to the Bucs because it was the run it back
year. I thought
year.
It was 21 when he said that because they weren't really winning by enough. And wasn't that the year where everything was like the two deep safeties was 21?
21 was 21, but they were losing games though.
Yeah.
21 they were losing games. In 20 they only lost the one game. And it was they weren't winning by enough. They were playing so many close games. They were getting up, and then the other team would come back. It had a little bit of that feel of sort of like those pressures of you have to be this, you have to be that. And even when you're winning, it's almost like not good enough. That's the takeaway from the documentary. And Urban Meyer really is a nice guy, like just a real caring individual.
I heard they didn't even get into his heart attack.
This is what I was going to say. Is that certainly if you want to do a docuseries on the Florida Gators and the impact of success and the wear and tear it'll take on you, certainly you'll find out what actually happened to Urban Meyer with his heart thing, right?
No, all it said was that
not in there.
You know, he just did it had become too much for him, and you know, he told the team that he was going to step down. He ended up not stepping down. He did tell the team he was stepping down and he was going to not coach. He coached one more year, and they went 8-4 or something like that. And then he did step down, and then ultimately ended up in Ohio State. Like, they give an update on that, but there was no like Percy Harvin stuff. There was nothing like that. My theory is they talked a lot about the players that were willing to be a part of the documentary.
Yeah,
like Brandon Spikes was a big part of the documentary. Is it Brandon Thomas, the little running back return specialist who was so awesome and untouchable at times? He was a big part of the documentary. They didn't talk about Percy Harvin's legal troubles. They talked about Percy Harvin's hamstring tear that kept him out of a game. That was a big part of that conversation. And so that was it was just simply hey, they were Swamp Kings. They were kings of the Southeast, and this is how good they were. And boy, you can see the stress of big-time college athletics that overtook Urban Meyer, and even Tim Tebow, was feeling the pressure. I did get a little bit of Tim Tebow being like genuine and real, like that's just who he is, whether people like the sort of overall sort of approach of Tim Tebow, like, how he presents public, not the religious stuff, but just like, hey, everybody, no, it's just like you got to fight, you got to do this, it's all about competition. Like, no, I came away with, like, no, that's really who he is. Like, that's really who he is.
Yeah, I
That's who
think
he's-
I've thought that for a long time.
But then you have,
it's a
like-
hard act to keep up for
right.
decades.
But then you have, like, these, the behind the scenes stuff, like videos and things like that. And like, they did a midnight workout, a midnight lift to get the team together, and some players didn't show up. Like Brandon Spikes was like, "I'm not here to work. I'm a football player. I'm not doing all that BS." Like Brandon Spikes was just a guy that didn't work out, didn't care about doing anything. Still one of the best players in the country. It's amazing. But they show up for this midnight workout, and everybody's there, and Tim Tebow is in all fatigues with army paint on his face.
Working a little Russell Wilson in him.
Dude, I mean, it's unbelievable. And then Brandon Spikes is talking about how they always go and party, and Tim Tebow never did. And it was like, everybody's asking, where's Tebow? Where's Tebow? So he was like, I wanted to see if, like, Tebow was, like, real and genuine who he is. Like, is this guy really a virgin? All this other stuff. So he said, I had a naked picture on my phone. So I showed Tim Tebow, and he went, oh my gosh, what are you doing, Brandon? And Brandon was like, oh, this guy's pretty lit. This guy actually is real. He is that real thing. Like, he was like taken aback. Why would you show me that? Was that her birth canal? What in the heck is wrong with you, Brandon? Sorry. And Urban Meyer's a great guy.
I mean, just the biggest takeaway you could possibly have. Just a real
And
Urban
just a
Meyer.
really-
Bad time to get him back on TV again.
Really good dude.
So they won basketball in 05-06 and
and football.
06-07, correct?
Yeah.
And then they won football in the fall of 06 and the fall of 08.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a pretty good run.
Good time.
Pretty good run for
And I
Flo Rida.
believe, wasn't Ohio State in at least in one of those football championship
Yeah,
games?
they were. They were
and
in the-
one in the basketball?
Yeah,
as
they
well?
were in the first one, I believe. That's they beat Ohio State. They beat Oklahoma in the second one, right?
Yes.
And they beat Ohio
There was
State.
that call in the end zone, that controversial call in the end zone against Ohio State. And then, it was was it 07?
Was that the Ohio State Miami? The
I'm
pass
thinking Miami.
interference?
Yeah. Another.
They
great football
they took care of
another
Ohio State.
football team from Florida that's had a ton of documentaries.
Yeah,
about
they destroyed Ohio State in that game. I didn't remember it being that lopsided because they were all like, "Hold on, we're going to lose." Everybody's saying Ohio State's just going to punk us. They went and won like by 30 points. Florida did, but that was with Chris Leak, and then Tebow and that team beat Oklahoma. But yeah, the BS High documentary is awesome though on HBO. BS High was amazing and shows the difference of like actually digging deep to get to the heart of it without like creating some of the and focusing on the goofiness, which is everybody was making fun of Bishop Sycamore High School, which was the high school that played IMG on ESPN, that had just played on Friday, that everybody's like, hold on, is this a fake school? Which it was, a fake school just to try to get football players. That documentary was amazing. And that came out on Wednesday on HBO.
Journalism kind of takes some lumps in some of these documentaries. And, Manti Te'o, I mean, people not looking in to see if this was a real person who
right.
died, right? And then just taking the word for Johnny Manziel's buddy
That,
who said,
that
he
he's
comes
really
from
rich.
oil money. Oh,
Oil money.
okay.
And then
You got that.
showing the clips of ESPN and others talking about, look, this is a guy that it's understandable he can do that because his parents are rich. They've got oil money. Just repeating what his friend lied about.
I can just
They
see.
didn't have all that money.
No. I can see somebody taking somebody for their word.
I mean,
I can see it, right? I cannot understand how a fake high school got all the way on to ESPN. I mean, the layers of people.
And ESPN called them.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And just the families out there, the parents, how they don't know. I don't know, kid is blowing the whistle.
Yeah. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. A number of other things that we'll want to get into and talk about. Shohei Ohtani is not done for the year because he can still hit, even with the UCL tear. Stephon Yabel saying he may not have to have Tommy John surgery, that Rich Hill had UCL repair 4 years ago, and he's still been pitching. So that certainly is a possibility. And also one of the things that Jeff Passan wrote at ESPN, which I thought was pretty fascinating. I want to get into that. Jonathan Taylor, what's the update on that trade? Because apparently really good players that are in the AFC can't freaking leave the AFC. You gotta stay in the AFC no matter what. And I also kind of wanted to get into a little bit of the BS High because the prep sort of football, youth football thing was an interesting aspect with that too, as high school football is starting and going
Tonight?
on. The big one tonight, Lee Summit, North Liberty.
You going?
I was planning on going with Little Man when it was at 7 o'clock. I still want to go.
You wanted to take him in the heat of the day, but when it's cooler, there's no reason to take him.
Well,
Is
he
that what you're
typically
saying?
goes to bed around 8:30.
That's where you're going.
Well, I don't care about the heat. He's
It's a
fine.
Friday. How old is he now? 14?
He's got a baseball tournament this weekend. Got a baseball tournament this
See,
weekend.
that's the problem with you sports right there. The
See.
parents, right?
He's got him in a cryo
Prioritizing,
chamber
you
until the
want some
game.
Entertainment. And no, we're not going to do that because you've got to be ready for the baseball.
We got the massage specialist coming in tonight at about 8:45 to make sure his muscles are ready to go for this weekend. You know, we're not messing around here. It's kid pitch.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, wrapping up this hour. One more hour to go. Hanging out with Mick Schaefer. We got the cups before the show is over, too.
I got one more hour in me.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was gonna say that.
Didn't sound like it right there when you were like,
Nah.
I think I got one more hour in me.
I got one more hour, but I got to pick between this next hour and the 2 hours that'll be Chiefs post game tomorrow. So I got 1 hour out of those 3 for you.
Well, you can be on the
What's
air
it
for
gonna
3
be?
hours, but only have one more hour of good radio in you left.
That's where I'm at, I think.
Yeah. So, Nick, what do you got left in you?
Not even that. Pregame tomorrow. I'll be
There
at
you go.
Arrowhead.
You'll be
For an
there.
hour.
I bet you're excited about the weather coming to a little break.
I'm not
huh?
excited about preempting half of the Notre Dame game. Oh,
Oh, that'd
God.
be good.
Rest in peace, my email.
Yeah, that's Mick
Rest in
Schaefer
peace.
at KSHB 41 Sports Director, 12emmys.com.
His phone number is.
Your biggest investment is your home. So after all the summer storms, extreme high winds, and hail that have hit Kansas City, I want to recommend some preventative maintenance solutions to keep your roof.
sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, Mick Schaefer hanging out with us until 2 o'clock. We got cuts before the show is over. A little high school football activity going on in Missouri tonight. Lee Summit North, Liberty. That'll be right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Liberty North.
Liberty North.
Big difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Between the Eagles and the Blue Jays.
Here's the thing. You think I care about the difference between Liberty?
You
bring them
should,
all.
because Liberty North is better and has beaten Lee Summit North.
Bring them all. Cool. That's awesome. Beating them in the past. The Bengals have beaten the Chiefs too. Doesn't mean
he wants Bama.
Cool. Yeah, we want Bama. That's right. We want
Bama is CBC.
I just don't want any
in St. Louis and in Missouri.
I just don't want any of the Lee Summit North players to go to Bama. So that's probably true. Yes, Lee Summit North versus Liberty North, whatever.
Yeah, Liberty North.
Yes, Liberty North. It'll be right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 7:30 pregame show, and then 8:30 when kickoff is for that game at Bronco Stadium coming up tonight. So a little high school football action. I had actually forgotten about the whole controversy that was the IMG Bishop Sycamore ESPN football game that happened that day. Because at the time it happened, and then it was like, wow, this team played on Friday, and then they're playing IMG on Sunday. Like, that to me was like sort of the biggest controversy that I remember of watching that game and how awful that team was, and the fact that IMG was just embarrassing them and injuring them. And then you find out that they played a couple days before. That's what I remember, like the whole controversy of, right? And then the documentary comes out. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's check this thing out. And on HBO, and it had great reviews, much better reviews than Swamp Kings. And the level of scam that was this entire fake school, that this Roy Johnson guy, who is absolutely a sociopath. I mean, he is a narcissistic sociopath, incredible high-level manipulator. He's like the Patrick Mahomes of manipulators.
Allegedly.
And just gaslighting everybody. Like the things that he did to create this football program that was a fake school. And he's got like 40 lawsuits out against him now. He doesn't believe that there's 40. He's like, really? There's 40? He will lie to your face and tell you he's lying because he's a liar. And tell you he's a liar, and he doesn't tell the truth very often. But he uses the fact that he tells you a liar to his advantage, because he says, I lie all the time. This time I'm telling you the truth. Because I'm telling you I'm always lying. I'm telling you now, this time is the truth.
That sounds watertight.
Does he have a twin somewhere who can only tell the truth? It's like one of those troll puzzles.
Yes. No.
My brother can only tell the truth. I can only tell lies. My eyes are blue. His are brown.
Yes.
Who am I? What?
So, it's a deep dive into like the youth system or sports ecosystem, right? Of like how these different prep schools and sort of the money that's brought in. Like, I didn't know IMG was just sold for like $1.26 billion or anything. I didn't realize that took place. Wow. That I also didn't know it was for sale. So I had no idea that IMG Academy, which the kids do go to school at IMG as opposed to some of these others.
They do. They go to school there. It's
school
quote,
supplements the sports.
One of the more legitimate ones.
Yeah.
They have basically their A varsity team, which is all D1 guys.
Yeah.
And then they'll have some lower level teams that have the IMG Academy, patch on the shoulder or whatever. You go there and they're not anywhere near that level of talent. Kansas City's had some kids that have gone to like one of those those lower level teams. But yeah, it's kind of like a mold of kind of AU sports, club sports, and high school together. These academies.
Yeah, like high schools have sports that supplement the high school, and the academies have the school that supplements the sports. That you go there to play sports. And Bishop Sycamore just didn't even have school at all. It was just totally fake. They never went to school. They never went to class. They just went and played football.
They had like horrible living conditions too, right?
They lived in hotels, but they also didn't have food, like because he was running out of money. He would call up local grocery stores and say, hey, I need to order 20 rotisserie chickens, but not to pick them up. And so they would make all those extra rotisserie chickens, and then he would go right before it closed and said, well, are you guys going to discount all those since those are just going to sit there? And then he would buy them at like a huge discounted rate because they were going to have to throw them away.
So that was one of his schemes that he did.
Like Tiger King when they went to Walmart and
Yes.
got all the meat that was thrown out.
That's right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's for animals.
Yep, he should have just. That was for him. He should have just done that. Yes, like the kids were so hungry they would go to they were going to Walmart and stealing food.
Actually, no, they make pizzas with those Tiger King.
That's exactly right.
They
yes.
did make pizza.
They did make pizza. Here, kitty. Like the kids were going and stealing food and everything. But like that's where like the living conditions and everything, it wasn't great, and they had to borrow pads from each other. Like when they played IMG, I didn't even realize it, but they played IMG. There's a player walking off the field with a helmet and then tosses it to another guy walking on the field.
Yeah.
His helmet. Like they're playing IMG and having to do that on ESPN.
On ESPN.
Yeah, and so apparently there's a guy out there that schedules football games for these big schools. And this Roy Johnson sociopath contacted this guy and said, I want the hardest schedule that you can possibly come up with. They ended up having the 4th hardest schedule in the country that year. And that's how they played
win
IMG.
any games?
I actually don't think so.
I doubt it.
I don't think so.
Because they had like 20-year-olds on the team, right? Didn't
They
have
had
some JUCO
kids that were that had already been to college, that were then back in high school, losing by like 50 points to high schoolers. But these kids were like 20. These men were like 20, 21 years old. But because they had this crazy schedule, and IMG was heading to Ohio, and it was the Hall of Fame game, ESPN was like, hey, we want to put this high school game on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And Roy Johnson was like, hell yeah, let's do it. The dream is coming true. Like everything, I told them that if we built it, they would come. They'd sold all these kids on, we're going to get you to D1 teams. We've got all these kids that we've sent to D1 schools and all of this other stuff. You want to be D1? I know you're not even playing football right now, but I can get you to D1, all of this stuff. And they get them there, and it's just this whole scam. And that part's bad enough. But then in order for him to complete the scam and still be playing football and traveling, he would be stealing the kids' Social Security numbers, taking out loans for them. Every single kid on the team took out a $20,000 PPP loan during COVID. That they found out about during the documentary interview.
They didn't know.
One of the kids was like, what? They're like, you didn't take out a $20,000 PPP loan. I was like, what's a PPP loan? It's like, no, you didn't take out it's right here. You have a $20,000 PPP loan in your name. They were getting evicted from places where he was putting it in different players' names. Wow. So now their actual record is like have evictions on their record and PPP loans on their record and other personal loans that they were taking out that he was telling them were government loans. And these are kids who are from broken families who don't have somebody to go to. Hey, is this real? They're trusting the quote adult. They're trusting the coach, that the coach is like, hey, you're a coach. You're supposed to have the best interest of all of these different kids. Like that was the worst part of it is the way that the lives have sort of happened for these kids after that. And then you see like the social media during the IMG game, and they were getting destroyed. People were going into their DMs telling them to kill themselves. You're the worst player ever. Like you shouldn't be. Like they were showing some of the DMs and some of the tweets that people were sending to the Bishop Sycamore players during the IMG
during
game.
the game before
during
they
the
knew
IMG game
it was
when
fake.
it just started coming out. They're like, hold on, is this a fake school?
Well, the
Is this not
announcers
real?
were kind of like onto it, which they should have been more onto it. But during the game, they're like, okay, this doesn't seem like a team that should be at this level.
Yeah, and the part that separated this from other documentaries is this Roy Johnson that they would have there, that they would actually call him out during the interview on these things, like, well, actually, this is what was going on. This is what actually happened because we've got the documents right here. Well, no, and he would spin it like he was just like we joked about, like a top. I mean, he would just spin it whatever in different ways, and just the way that you could see that he would easily sell it to kids, that the kids would just look at it and go, yeah, I get it. This is the dream. I want to go and be the dream. And their quarterback actually was going to get a full ride to Grambling with Hugh Jackson until they found out that it was a fake school. And they couldn't get the kid qualified through the NCAA. And Grambling doesn't have Alabama and LSU means to be able to go and fight the NCAA to spend all this money with lawyers to be able to get this kid passed. They just said, you don't have your scholarship anymore. Sorry. That was your dream of playing at Grambling. Sorry. It's gone. Like all of the fallout is amazing. And this guy just walking free. Just walking free.
Yeah.
Like if there's ever somebody that should be put behind bars that has 30, 40 different lawsuits, bouncing checks, stealing from people, not paying people, taking out
fraud.
20, 30 PPP loans of $20,000 apiece.
Yeah, I saw in the trailer how he's talking about kind of boastfully how he's not in jail. I mean,
Was
do
it
you think I
against the
did
law?
illegal? Like, it turns out it was, and
It's like, he's
you
like,
probably
show me.
should be.
It was in Ohio.
at
He's
this
like,
point.
show me in OSHA where it says that you can't be 21 years old to play. Where's the age of to say it? And then it shows OSHA's after you're 20 years old, you cannot play. You were ineligible to play high school football. But we weren't a part of OSHA though. We weren't. That's the thing is we weren't a part of OSHA. You signed this thing that says you will adhere by all of OSHA rules, right? But that's for some. This is a private school though. This is a religious school. It has nothing to do with OSHA. Like he had a spin for everything, even when he's called right on it.
Those types of guys make for great documentaries.
Yeah.
Bad football coaches and principals and stuff, but
And
great
concert inventors.
documentaries.
But great
I heard
for docs.
Firefest is coming back. Is that true?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I heard it's coming back.
It should.
And it's like
Just
sold
so we can
out
get
already.
Just so we
'cause
get
people
another
are
documentary.
idiots.
So we can get another
People are
documentary.
idiots.
Well, they want to live it. I want to see what it was like. I want to be a part of the documentary.
Yeah,
you know?
I'll get on the Titanic too. That sounds like fun. No, thank you. I'll stay home. No, thank you.
But like the vanity project that was Untold Swap Kings with Urban Meyer, because that's what that was. That was a vanity project that was, let's see if we can read it. Urban, if you want to be a part of this, we'll do what we can to help out your view.
Maybe Swamp Kings 2 will be about his half year in Jacksonville.
Maybe.
Still kind of a swamp.
Yeah. It's
And met a swamp queen, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like, actually, I think she in Ohio.
Yeah.
It was Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah. He had kids playing with torn ACLs
Oh,
in the season. Like just get back out there. You're fine.
no, I didn't know that.
Their athletic trainer was one of the kids' moms who wasn't a nurse or anything. Just would go out there and be like, "So what's up? Just got a knee thing.
Yeah. Cool. Just kind of put more weight on the other one, I guess.
It looks bad.
Can't believe
you pop
Florida.
your shoulder out.
Can't believe Florida
Do
didn't
you have
have
another
real
one?
trainers.
Do you have another shoulder that you could possibly get? Jeff Passan wrote a really interesting piece at ESPN about Shohei Ohtani, and just like every time he was on a diamond, sort of that unicorn that you're watching, and knowing that this is not normal. And one of the things that I was when I was reading that, I started to ask myself of like, if we appreciated him in real time, because often we don't appreciate like true greatness in real time. I actually think we did. I actually think I think we talked about so much that this is not normal, that we marveled at some of the acts that Shohei Ohtani did, that I feel like he is one of those that if he never pitches again, that at the time it was going on, that we sort of understood what we were watching, and we don't look back 20, 30 years and go, man, I wish I would have appreciated that a little bit more, because that is just unbelievable. We'll never see anything like that again. Is Ohtani one of the few that we've seen like true greatness special at the time that is historic, that 100 years from now they might be talking about, that we actually appreciated in real time?
I think he's greatly appreciated inside the realm of baseball, right? Baseball fans. I mean, he is the premier guy in baseball. He is talked about a lot. But outside of that, he hasn't transcended the sport, which maybe he should be, right? He's not at some sort of LeBron or Patrick Mahomes level. I don't think he's anywhere close.
Kelsey's more famous than Ohtani, it feels like.
Probably.
Across the country. He's doing Saturday Night
Probably,
Live.
and it may has to do with the sport a little bit, maybe how it's marketed and all that. But I agree with you. The baseball people are, but I think he could still get some more love, and it'd be warranted.
Yeah, reading that Passan piece this morning, and if you haven't read it, it is a work of art in and of itself. It is some of Passan's best, and every once in a while you read something. For me, at least, you go, oh, that is standout amongst great content that exists across the internet now. Passan's column here is spectacular, but it left me asking a very similar question, and not even so much as for like the industry, but just myself. Like, oh man, I almost went when the Angels were in town this year. I thought about, I maybe I should have just gone to that game. But one thing that it did make me feel a little bit better about is I was on the edge of my couch cushions watching the World Baseball Classic, watching Ohtani versus Trout, and even experiencing that entire game was a blast. But then it all comes down to that at bat. That is a seminal moment in baseball history. If you at least were watching then and you want it to be. It transcended moments, big moments that Major League Baseball's had for years. The World Series come and go without there being an individual moment that people are tweeting about or whatever throughout the course of the series. So I do think we at least talked about Shohei Ohtani appropriately, and he's not, his season's not over, and he's not dead.
Yeah.
He just might not pitch anymore.
He's not retiring. It's not Steven Strasburg.
Not a career
Right?
ender.
It's, not that.
I think we talked about him appropriately because pretty early on people were like, oh no, he's like Babe Ruth, but like better and more talented, more skilled at this point in the way that baseball is right now. But I still don't know if I enjoyed it as much as I could have, which is something that I try to keep in mind when we have the conversations about, like, how many more years is Travis Kelce going to play football?
Yeah.
What happens in a decade? Where's Patrick Mahomes in 10 years? And so every one of these to me is just a little opportunity to kind of take that inventory and say, hey, am I actually appreciating what I'm watching, or is it just, are we eating it all like fast food of just, oh, yes, sports. Sometimes you get something that's really exceptional.
To me, Jameis Winston has provided the most seminal moments. Maybe Charlie Ward. Deion Sanders.
I think Phillip Rivers may have had the most seminal moments.
You're not
at NC State?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a lot of kids.
Oh, yeah.
You made a joke, and then I made a different joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked his better.
That's fine. I did too, but I had to go second, so.
Well, he took the good one.
I might like yours.
He left the scraps for me, okay? It was stuff that I would give to the animals.
It was
okay?
the thinker. It was, look, that's what we call a highbrow bleep joke.
It was, yes.
It's more Peter Warwick.
Like, wait a second. He was in the ACC with them, I think, right? Yeah, but he never, did he beat them? What's he talking about?
Moments, I'm not really sure that. I do wonder that.
Robert Saleh, by the way, a lot of seminal moments. I didn't know he had 7 kids.
Yeah, right.
What does that have to do with it?
So we're watching greatness right now with Patrick Mahomes. High level, most talented player that has ever played the quarterback position. The most important position in all of sports. He's the most talented that's ever done it. And he's doing things we've never seen before. I think there's an appreciation locally. And I think even nationally, like analysts, there's appreciation. But what I think Ohtani and Patrick Mahomes, what separates them, besides the NFL being a monster and baseball being like, oh, that's an awesome player, is whatever your favorite baseball team is, Ohtani isn't a threat to ruin what you are viewing as your sort of like cultural fabric and your the way you view yourself and ending your entire season. He's not a threat. You can root for him, and that's fun. Patrick Mahomes, he's great, but I want to find a way to downgrade him because bleep him, dude. I'm tired of him, and I'm tired of the Chiefs, and I'm tired of the trash, and he is not humble. He's cocky, and his wife, don't even get me started, and his brother, it's his fault. How about do a little bit more of being a better big brother rather than winning games? What's more important, Patrick, a championship or your family? I think we know. It's more important. It's a championship. He can ruin other people's happiness. So I do think nationally, like fans in the NFL, there's probably a much diminished appreciation of Patrick Mahomes' greatness than even appreciating what we're watching with Shohei Ohtani, because Ohtani hitting a home run against the Royals, hell yeah! I saw Ohtani hit a home run against the Royals. Mahomes doing that against the Bengals, like, you bleep you. Bleep you.
I think we're all guilty of it. Well, we probably didn't give Tom Brady a fair shake for a couple decades, right?
Always rooting against Brady.
Always rooting
and
against him. Always
Hated
finding ways to take shots at him, jabs, whether it's just in whatever day-to-day conversation or online or whatever. So it's a similar thing.
Yeah,
I think.
It's absolutely true. But Ohtani has no chance of actually ruining your dreams of your team.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because also Shohei Ohtani has no chance of impacting your happiness like any of the villains in football do. Like, that's what it is for me, is you know how many times I have stayed up late to watch the beginning of an Angels game on national TV?
0.
I think it's probably 0. I've done it more for the World Baseball Classic to watch Trout and Ohtani than I've done it with them both playing in L.A.
They're on the same team.
You could watch them, well, I mean, obviously you could watch them play together like every day, but that's very rarely true.
Play together? How often have they played together?
So yeah, we're like only 4 times with it. That's not true.
But all 4 times they hit back-to-back home runs.
It's crazy.
Sport too, and that but he's going to be up like 4, maybe 5 times a game, one out of every 9 times.
You watch
he
the
can
game
have a great game, and often he does have a great game, and it doesn't matter because his team loses. He pitches once out of every 5 days, whereas Mahomes will have the ball in his hand half of the plays every single game, and a loss is 1/17 of your season in in football, and it's one out of your weekend, right? You can still win the series and claim baseball superiority if you lose to him in baseball.
I don't think he's going to stop pitching. I don't think he's going to stop being a starter. I think he's going to want to return and do that. What I do wonder is if he gets the Tommy John surgery and he's out and all of that stuff, like how long until he returns, Bryce Harper, all of that stuff, we've seen it. If Ohtani were to just give up pitching, like I am fascinated to see what his career would be as a hitter or as a defensive player. Like, because Ohtani in right field with that arm, because he wouldn't have to pitch, so the Tommy John arm, he can then, break it loose whenever he needs to. His speed, his obvious natural baseball instincts, and his bat. If he played another 10 years in right field, would he be one of the greatest right fielders that ever lived? Babe Ruth would be like, stop following me! I'm the greatest right fielder that ever lived. I was the hitter-pitcher. The hell is this guy's problem?
Imagine Shohei Ohtani and Babe Ruth trying to track down the same fly ball.
It looks roughly the same.
Come on.
The same grace that would be
You've
there.
got you've got a gazelle and a dude with 4 half-chewed hot dogs in his belly right then.
He'd be like, like Clemente in right field with Hank Aaron's bat and or you could say Babe Ruth's bat, whatever. But if he's just a position player and a hitter, is he hitting 50 home runs? If he's not spending so much time focusing and working on baseball, pitching, which I don't want him to do. I want him to do both because I want to continue to watch the unicorn.
Yeah, it hurts the mystique. Aaron Judge isn't that interesting to me.
But I am fascinated if he gives up pitching and he just goes and plays right field and it's like, wow, he was an amazing defensive player. He won 5 Gold Gloves and he did all this on the mound. It's like he is the greatest baseball player that has ever lived because he pitched, he hit, and he played a Gold Glove right field, and he goes down as one of the greatest right fielders ever. And I don't know what life would look like with him in the field playing, but I can imagine he'd be a phenomenal outfielder with how fast he is and his arm.
He would pick it up quicker than MJ Melendez.
I don't know. MJ has had all those practices already.
Have we seen MJ pitch? Worth a shot.
I bet he would be a good pitcher. They usually get the catchers that kind of throw by their ear. They're not going to extend. They just throw strikes, don't overthrow.
I watched those throws from outfield, not very accurate. He might have some good stuff. It's got some tailing action. I don't know how accurate it is in the strike zone. C.B. Buckner would call it a strike, so he doesn't care. Doesn't even matter where it ends up being. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about what we want to see in the game tomorrow for the Chiefs' final preseason game number 3. We'll do that next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and
All right, Chiefs in action. Preseason game number 3 tomorrow against the Browns.
And
Noon.
What station is it on?
Post game will be right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Mick, thanks for asking.
Television station?
NFL Network?
No!
Mick, it's on it's your home for the Kansas City Chiefs. KSHB 41.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
That's
I'll look it
41 on your dial.
Number one
Use
in
your
your
antenna. Bunny ear. Can you still get with bunny ears? That's all gone, right?
People have bunny
You
ears.
still do that? They changed something with
There's
TV.
HD antennas.
That's
that
what
actually,
I have one of those.
And it's probably more clear on that than it is through any sort of service.
It wipes away that delay too.
Okay, I found it. It's on NFL Network. Yep.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And also
Here's the
KSHB 41. KSHB
I think it's
41.
I think it's Kushba.
So
It's called Kishba? Is that an international one?
the Notre Dame game, I don't know if they're a big team. Playing
That's not till
in-
1:30. You're fine.
Notre Dame.
You think the Chiefs are going to get that in their game in an hour and a half?
The only things that matter.
Here's
is
the
the first hour and a half.
Here's the
Nobody's
problem.
gonna-
Here's the problem. 2 weeks ago, we preempted the NASCAR race. We just put it over on Channel 38.
Which is fine. That's
everybody gets that.
It's a great part of having Channel 38.
And we just a lot of blowback still from that.
Just tell
a
them-
lot of blowback.
Just tell them that's the spot for it.
We can't move. It has to be on an NBC service avenue, something. So we can't move it to 30th spot. So it's going to be on streaming and on Peacock for the first basically half. And the people that write into our TV station, they don't have streaming, they don't have Peacock, and they don't want to take the time to learn about it or find it. They want to take the time to bitch and moan.
Plus the letter that you get on Wednesday opening up to read about their frustrations of what happened on Saturday.
Yes, there's that. You get those. And so it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad because I'm told there's a big fan base for Notre Dame everywhere. And the fact that they're playing in Ireland against, I don't know, some team called Navy is kind of a big deal.
They're not even like top shipmen; they're midshipmen.
Right,
so
in the middle doesn't matter.
Right, it's just like Notre Dame's
But
sort of
here's
been
the
mid
problem.
for a while.
They're not
too,
just
right?
Irish; they're fighting Irish,
but they're fighting the
comes
Irish.
through
That's
on
why they're
their-
they're fighting the Irish.
That's what they're doing
So,
there.
so there's a whole war. They
No,
took
there's
the
no
Navy
V.
to get
It's not
there.
fighting the Irish. They're fighting Irish. It's an adjective.
Oh, I thought it was like a few good men when he said, "I love all you Navy boys. When we got a war to fight, you always give us a ride." Thought maybe they were giving him a ride
it's
over
an
to fight the
adjective.
Irish.
It's not a verb. So,
So I've been so Chiefs Browns that this is going on. So this is what I thought was happening the whole time. That Notre Dame was riding with Navy to go fight the Irish.
If you want to go ahead and cast your vote right now for which one they're going to carry tomorrow, go ahead and write a letter to Mick Schaefer at KSHB41. You can grab the info online. Just go ahead and write Mick a letter.
We've been promoting it all week
Yeah,
long.
you should.
What we're going to be doing, that's not going to matter at all. But there's going to be a crawl the entire Chiefs game.
I was just joking and saying, do you guys have a crawl at the bottom of the Chiefs game? Yeah, I figured
that's
you
not
would.
going to matter whatsoever. The people want to complain, and we're going to give them license to. Here we go.
It's like when the sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I get emails when NBC is airing like the national the track event last year. I got emails like, why do you always have the graphics on the screen whenever they're running the 100-meter dash? I'm sorry. I'll take those off. We have a button here in Kansas City to take it off for the World Athletic Championships in Hungary. And so I'm just going to push that button. I'll take it off.
I had somebody complain about my show like a long time ago. That was the only time ever. But they tweeted ESPN.
Yeah, I
to
love
complain
that.
about it. Just so you know.
Yeah. Guess what?
Like, wow.
They're never going to hire you now.
I was like, you know what? You know what's going on right now? They're learning I exist right now, if anybody read that. So I'm not sure that's going to get as much weight as you think it is.
Actually would have gotten more
No
attention
traction.
if you had mailed it to Mick.
Somebody would have at least seen it and cared about it at the time.
It's going to be bad.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Just don't open my emails.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that address again?
So
Mick Schaefer.
Nobody.
Jason
people
Anderson.
rarely find my address. You go
Emmys.com.
online, and you can find just a generic sports address that people will write to, and it's you're basically just, what is it called? You're yelling into the oblivion or whatever.
To the void.
The void, yeah, because I'm never writing you back.
Has it ever been opened?
Oh yeah, well I see them all. I just don't.
Okay. So if I find that email and send like one
If
that's
it's
like,
a
hey, Mick, you're
legitimate
doing
deal,
a good
sometimes
job.
people are looking for like the athlete of the week story or whatever. It's legitimate. question or concern, I will write back. But if it's just they're just screaming and yelling, that's the void. That's what they're screaming into.
All right,
no response.
I'm gonna start sending emails to that address
Just randomly.
just to give you some little pick me ups partway through.
Because most of the time it has nothing to do with me. It's like
Sounds like none of the time.
Dale Collinsworth, stop being such a Bengals homer.
Oh, that's perfect.
I will. I will tell Chris that.
Dude,
I will tell him.
When you talk about like the scroll and people not paying attention, you said Collinsworth being a homer. When the NCAA tournament started doing the hometown broadcasts on like TBS, TNT, True TV, all of that stuff, and people would tune in thinking that the game was on that because they see the game, so they turn it on, and it's like the North Carolina broadcast or whatever, or the Kansas broadcast or whatever, and then you're seeing on Twitter like, these announcers, it is unbelievable. I've even heard them say "we" a couple times, and there's a scroll. The actual game is playing on this channel. Yeah. This is the hometown broadcast.
Doesn't matter.
It does not matter at all, man. Which the actual broadcast is better than the hometown broadcast.
Hey, find your email, Mick.
And Collinsworth is a homer when he does that game with that team. With the other team that's out there, it's ridiculous, man. Stop it.
Hey, I got a question for Mick here real quick. Who wrote the sentence for your bio? I love connecting with you on social media, and you can find me lots of places.
And then there's no place that's listed?
There's just
not in lots of places. You can find me lots of places.
Find me lots of places.
Oh, wow.
That part wasn't what sent it off for me. It was the sentence, the phrase, I love connecting with you on social media.
You know that wasn't me, right? I don't respond to anybody. I hate replies.
Somebody was actually writing it for you and didn't know who you were, and they're like, "Who's this?" Make sure he's like, "I'm just writing."
I don't even think I have a typical bio on there. They just did like a questionnaire.
Yeah,
for
it says you've been blessed to
window.
win 9 Emmys in your time in Kansas City. You've got to adjust that.
Yeah.
But he wasn't blessed for the other 5. He was just given those.
No, he took those.
I got lucky for 9.
He stole those.
5 were legit.
That's right. I feel blessed that I won 9 because I should not have. The other 5, not even sure why they had anybody else up for the Emmy. It's only one winner in that category.
Dude, this is other than KSHB.com and KSHB41. Where do you get your news from? Mix Answers, ESPN, Twitter, memes from Facebook, parentheses, just kidding. That one's hilarious.
Thank you.
That
was
810
so
didn't
funny.
show up there.
Back in 2017, I was so funny.
It does say pause for laughter. Right
what
after
are the apps
parentheses.
you can't live without? Twitter, Team Snap,
GHIN,
Handicap, Golf,
yeah.
and Sports Radio 810.
Did I
He's
put that on
listening
there?
on the mobile app. Somebody put it on there. Somebody put it on that list, and whoever did, I'm grateful to.
I guarantee you I answered those questions truthfully because no one's going to put your Gen Handicap site or Team Snap on there. But I was living on those at that time.
That is interesting. The teams. I wouldn't have thought about the app you can't live without is Team Snap. But you know what? You are absolutely right.
You say it's
I
all
go to Team
true.
Snap probably twice a day.
I got the Group Me now too. I know some teams are on.
We've got Group Me, but the Team Snap probably twice. What time was? When was that? What was that? It doesn't commit to memory for whatever reason.
I
I'm
like
not
the what's the Game Center when you
Game
actually
Center?
Is that what it's called when you actually can track the every play and it's got gnats of the crowd cheering whenever a kid gets a hit or whatever, and it's got sound of
Game Changer.
Game Changer, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I watched my son's game when I was in Tahoe. Was on Game Changer. It's like Everett Anderson up, and then it puts a ball like into right center, and then a double.
My parents actually thought for a while that was real audio they had there. That's cool that they have like microphones there. I'm like, no, that's just stock sound that they're putting in.
At 3 and 2, I think you can pay depending on the game. You can pay if you want to get the live stream.
It's a new golden era to be taking your kids to 3 and 2 because of Barry Switzer. Now, did you hear about that?
No.
They have these brand new video boards out at 3 and 2 for most of their fields, I believe now, and they're video scoreboards. And so not only can you actually, that's my biggest pet peeve in all of youth sports is like, you got these awesome, nice scoreboards out there. No one's ever running them. We never know. And you end up arguing because the moms have the thing on the fence that hangs and you can dial back the cards and say it's 3-2. Like, no, it's 3-3. We scored that run last inning. And it's just an argument. And now they have these video boards out there that not only can tell you the score, but you have advertising out there, and it's a cool thing. So I'm jealous. I'm thinking about having an LLB. It's a late life baby, so I can experience 3 and 2 with those video scoreboards.
3 and 2 now?
Yeah, on Wednesday or Thursday they had the big unveiling of. At least I saw video.
We'll be there this weekend.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You know what? You can
and
come out.
It's Barry Switzer's. It's his company, but he's the spokesperson for him, and he was out there. And
How about that?
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'll check them out this weekend. You know what? I don't know if that's going to raise the roof or not, but somebody's going to raise the roof this weekend, right, Josh?
They really are. And I was just,
right, Josh.
I was just looking over
Look at me,
mixed.
look at me.
Yeah,
I'm doing it. I can be the guy.
Mix raising the roof. And Raise the Roof's brought to you by Shamrock Roofing
Doing a
Construction.
military press over there for some reason.
Shamrock Roofing Construction, where one call does it all. I was just going through you mentioned, this is all stuff you wrote in the questions and answers, but you said it was all true. I don't think that could possibly be the case because it says, what are you most proud of in your own life? And it opens with, I'm, of course, proud of my 3 children and all that they do.
No way.
So that sounds like a lie. But not a lie that you, all you got to do is get a hold of Shamrock Roofing Construction when it's time to take care of your roof. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the running backs and the offensive tackles, especially this weekend. Tomorrow we'll have post-game coverage right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Little Wanya Morris and maybe little Michael Pirine and Deneric Prince. Those are the guys I'm looking to see raise the roof. Brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, Kansas City's local residential and commercial roofing contractors. One call does it all.
All right, we will take a timeout. We'll come back. Cuts next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810.
All right, welcome back in the zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, and Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We head up until 2 o'clock. So in Petra, the program takes over at 2, and he takes you to 6 o'clock, where we got a little best of coming your way. And then 7:30 tonight, first high school football pregame show, the first high school football game of the week this year for Sports Radio 810. Pregame starting at 7:30 and kickoff at 8:30 with Lee Summit North and Liberty North. That is there in Lee Summit at Bronco Stadium. That is at 8:30 tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I can't wait.
And then we got a little pregame, postgame activity tomorrow for the Chiefs right here on Sports Radio 810.
No, I'll be here for postgame, and I'll have all sorts of pregame coverage for you.
I think Liebs will handle the pre.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chef Lebo, we call him.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He's cooking before every single game, and he's just shocking everybody while he's on the air. All right, let's get the cuts in before we are done here. What has happened over the week, or I don't know how many different weeks we're catching up on these, but you know what? It's still things that have taken place on the station. None of them are out of context.
Down goes Anderson! Down goes Anderson!
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
Everything's this month, I think, now. I think
that
we've
right?
got everything in August.
Okay. We got a number of things this week, too.
My favorite discussion was when the Pac-12 and the ACC were talking about some sort of merger, because I didn't know if they knew that those are two different oceans. And so, yeah, I mean,
I hope that the Pacific and the Atlantic do not merge. Let me just say, that is a hope that I think a lot of people on this side of the planet should hope for.
I mean, they merge at the Panama Canal, right?
Yeah, and
below South America.
Yeah, but I'm really meaning in this country with the conferences. But anyway, go ahead.
You could get the help from Echo and do a little Echo boy do-si-do.
I missed Drake. Sorry, Dylan.
That's all I remember from square dancing at elementary school and gym is the do-si-do. I don't remember that.
I think that was one long clip. We just gave it that pause.
That is as created on air.
So the next day at the circus, the firefighters, with all their firefighter brethren and other members of this political gang, showed up. Now, the police had heard about it and heard there was going to be a riot, but they were also members of the Oranges, so they didn't. So they didn't come out, and there ended up being a huge fight. And basically, the city of Toronto tore into this circus and pretty much ended it. And Nabisco stands for National Biscuit Company.
Hey, you're just rubbing this in Dylan's face here.
That's right. He has control over what he's playing. Drake loves when I'm moving the mic like this. In fact, he's getting annoyed and mad right now. So good for it. I'm just making sure this thing doesn't, you're supposed to move all of your body. As you get older and you don't move, your ligaments and joints stop working. I just want to make sure this thing is all working and everything. Still got the joints all
One of
working
these
there.
days, one of those springs is going to go, you're going to lose an eye, and I'm not going to feel bad about it.
It's like the Jets punter who sprints off the field every time. Brandon Flowers later said somebody told him that he had a boyfriend who looked like a girlfriend that he had back in February
of last year.
Jesus, that's good.
It was great.
I think the fade out there is because we went to break.
That's exactly what happened.
Everything that you have said, Jason, I totally agree with. I couldn't have said it better myself. You might be the smartest individual I've ever heard in my life.
That was Rustin Dodd who joined us
Sounded like
on
him.
Monday. I think so.
that was me being an idiot.
That was the argument Matt, Derek, and I got in, and at the end of the argument, that's what he said.
I don't think that's
So
right.
it's just happenstance that it's happening. That conspiracy theory I can definitely poo-poo.
Whoa. Yeah, well, get it out.
That conspiracy theory I can definitely poo-poo. What's that? I can definitely poo-poo.
What's that?
Poo-poo.
What's that?
Poo-poo.
What's that? I don't think that was live.
No, it was a little production work.
The backside felt like it was more vanilla.
Whoa! Hear that one again? Hear that one more time? Just click that one again. You may have to go back and forth between a couple. I may have made this too hard on you, Dylan. Play the poo-poo one again.
The backside felt like it was more vanilla.
I mean, sometimes it is.
The backside felt like it was more vanilla.
Maybe chocolate.
It's knee, hamstrings, shin, something down there.
So great.
It's a big area.
Yeah. Need to go make a poopy.
Stay in your little bubble of lies and take your inside the park home run.
I love it here, my little bubble of lies.
That was
Tomorrow at
the
6
fact that it
a.m.,
hit his glove.
I'm going to call you and say, hey, buddy, get up and make better choices.
It was an inside the park home run. That's what it was. It was not an air.
Hey, buddy, get up and make better choices.
This is the future here.
Hey, buddy, get up and make better choices. Hey, buddy, get up and make better choices. Hey, buddy, get up and make better choices.
Snooze. Snooze.
It's like Travis Kelce's new ringtone on that Campbell's soup commercial.
That's
Have you
right.
seen it?
Two-time champion.
It sounds like it's Patrick Mahomes, his voice.
Oh, I got to listen to it
Listen
again.
to it again, yeah.
Absolutely.
That one was Les Norman.
Yeah.
And you deserve your pain.
He gets more play on this than me every week.
Well, he's funny.
Oh, my gosh, that Salvi, he's hitting a foul ball. He stinks.
And he has great hot takes.
I couldn't believe he said that about Salvi. So Rashee Rice is back out of practice now. So
But those photos are grainy.
Can we prove that it is Rashee Rice actually wearing a number 4 jersey, or did they just put somebody else in a number 4 jersey just to calm the nerves of Chiefs
Josh
fans?
inspired me to make another Rice joke. I'm sorry.
I liked it. I thought it was great. I got it.
I missed it. Go ahead, Josh.
You did miss that.
Take this mic off, so I got both of them over here. Now, Drake, I can never tell when the mics are on or not, as we discussed earlier, so I think Jason's going to leave the studio, which is really going to be a problem. Are we recording in stereo now, do you think? Oh, man. Oh, he's going... No, Jason, not the balcony! No! He came back. Beards never cared, and then I never asked Drake what he wanted me to do, so, hey, Drake, going forward for you, should I print these off, or I'll start next week?
Sure.
Deal.
Last night I had a dream I was looking for a Walgreens in St. Louis and a meteor shower happened and started destroying buildings. It was a very, very strange dream.
But when you fell, did you hit the ground?
No, but the arch went, the arch took one. I mean, it was a very detailed dream.
How did people know how to get west?
I don't know.
The arch took one.
I'm very strong. I work out a lot. I'm very handsome.
No.
I'm Matt Lane. No, that's why I
there
wanted.
it is.
Okay, I got it. And then I fall asleep. I have a nightmare, and a clown chases me while Chris Jones plays for a different football team. It's my dream.
It's your hell.
Hey, Jason, it's me, Josh. I'm in the other room. We have that audio now if you want it.
Okay, great. Yeah,
All right, I'm going to hang up and listen. Thanks for the call.
Thanks. Yep.
I was afraid he wasn't going to come back.
It was that bad, huh?
It was grisly.
Walk off. You guys have a good weekend. I'm out.
Later, Josh. Have a good weekend, man.
So that was from Friday. So
Yeah,
we got
it
all
was
the
a
way
bear.
caught up to last Friday.
That's good.
So next week will be this week and next week.
Oh, okay. So this week is now this week.
I bet there's still some Drake stuff in there. Sorry, Dylan, for these guys.
Thanks for that answer, Josh, dummy.
All right. Thank you, Matt. You're
I'm
the
going to
man.
get in trouble when I get home, because because if Nancy heard this, I'm definitely boned.
Whoa, wait.
That's what he said. That's what he said. We were surprised, too.
Congrats, Matt.
That's what happens when he gets in trouble.
God, I get one
Matt,
of those.
where are you at right now? Give me your GPS. I need your coordinates. Latitude, longitude.
I am stepping out of the elevator.
It was right there. I thought he was in his car. Matt, where are you at right now?
And I loved it. It was so much more comfortable. Yeah. And they never talked me out of it, and it probably... I don't know if
It
it
was
helped
great.
or hurt.
The first time...
But it kept me down on
Yeah.
balls, balls in the ground.
What's he talking about?
Baseballs being thrown in the
Next week.
ground kept me down with trying to block them.
Apparently that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, baseballs.
Baseballs.
I've never heard such a passionate, irrelevant argument. That is absolutely true. That was the Shane Buechele.
When you got
when Matt Derrick and I
he went Solomon Wilcots on you, didn't he?
He punched me. That was out of character. I got boned. He was so mad at me.
This could be 300 or nothing. I think you had 291 or something.
something like that.
Could be $3 bills.
I'd love to be $3 bills.
Curtis is so self-deprecating.
He is.
I love Curtis.
It's great. All right, Mick, thank you. Speaking of people we love, Curtis is next, and Soren is next. But Mick, you're...
Curtis is so self-deprecating, and Soren is so Curtis-deprecating.
It's true. Right? Mick, thank you.
You bet anytime. You can deprecate on me anytime.
Oh, my...
Wait, no.
Go update your bio.
No,
Are you
yeah.
serious? Wow. Let's go north.
The Freedom Loan, exclusive at Cap One Lending, beats your 3% mortgage. Here's why. It pays your principal first by